going from one to another. Very sorry, but it was when
Thank you all for joining us. I know it's a super busy day in Parliament today, and we have some people who are coming from other meetings very shortly, including some of our speakers who is occupied at other events just now. So let's make a start. If I can ask you to put your mobiles on silent, we're live streaming as well, and the hashtag for today, because you're all going to tweet enthusiastically, is hashtag Child Guarantee. I'm Brian Maguire. I'm a journalist with Euractiv, and my pleasure to introduce our panelists in just a moment, and we have an introduction from Udo Bullman and a word from Mercedes Bresso as well. Thank you so much for joining us, Udo.
Thanks, Brian. Dear colleagues, distinguished guests, thanks for coming to our event, to our invitation. It's about the situation of children in the European Union. It's about the child guarantee. And please allow me, Mercedes Bresso will follow because she is our Vice President in charge of the respective policy area. But allow me to have a couple of very principal remarks. I do not know what else should directly strike us, go to our heart, if not children in poverty in our societies. Everybody who has some sensitivities of community has to realize that this is a scandal. Even more a scandal against the backdrop of the wealth of our societies. It is morally indefendable. It is something that we have to accuse those who are responsible for day by day, and it is something that we will not tolerate. Those who do not understand this get it emotionally or by cognitive resources, should at least realize that it is bloody dumb, because you are ignoring the future, you are ignoring the best resources of your society. Who should be the one to modernize your facilities? Who should be the one to modernize your economy, your social life, give a decent contribution to your society tomorrow, if not the children of today? So this is many reasons why children are at the core of our worries, are at the core of our political strategy, and are at the core of our political fights. We, the Socialists and Democrats, have been arguing already for a while for a guarantee for children. A guarantee for children to have a decent life, to have a decent childhood, a decent youth, and should not worry about their daily nutrition, should not worry about a decent home, and should not worry about their clothes and what to eat and to drink when they are preparing school, and should not worry that their parents can afford to live in decency. We argue for basic values, and we argue for a political framework in which these guarantees are secured, and we expect from the European Commission an initiative, a legislative initiative, and we expect from our member states to respect that and to contribute to that. Very often we were alone in this fight as the progressives. Very often we felt that conservatives and neoliberals were either ignoring or blocking our initiatives, but that should be over. It's high time that we put it on top of the agenda. We will not wait for the new Commission to come into place. We will not wait for a potential agenda after the European election. We want to see the initiatives now. And this is the very reason why we confronted also Jean-Claude Juncker in his last State of the Union debate exactly with this request. Jean-Claude Juncker, as far as I could see, was admitting that there is a problem and was indicating in the debate in Strasbourg that he wishes to come back on that. We are looking forward to that, Mr. Juncker, and we would like to see your Commission's initiative. We know how many parents, we know how many children all over Europe, how many initiatives, how many NGOs on behalf of the right of children are waiting for that, and we will make strong alliances with all these groups promoting the same political goals. Thanks for coming today. Mercedes will give you more precise information of the policy of our group. And I know, thank all the experts that show up today to enrich our debates. I'm already assured that we have a lively debate and good conclusions and leave this venue with more muscles than we came. Thanks so much.
I will speak in Italian. We have the interpretation, so I prefer. No, this is mine, but you can take.
As long as you speak Italian, I use it and then I give it back.
You have to find your...
I check it.
No, but this is English if you want. Easier.
Perfect.
Grazie innanzitutto a tutti voi per essere presenti. Come ricordava poco fa il nostro presidente Udo Bullmann, quando si guarda i dati sulla povertà in Europa e sulla povertà infantile in Europa, si resta stupiti e esterrefatti che ciò sia possibile. Se guardiamo che ci sono più di 27 milioni di bambini in Europa a rischio di povertà o di esclusione sociale, il che significa che circa un bambino su 3 nasce e vive tutta la sua prima infanzia in una condizione di esclusione certa o di rischio forte di esclusione, e quindi che il principio fondamentale, che non è solo socialista, è anche un principio liberale dell'eguaglianza nei punti di partenza, è minato dall'inizio per 3 bambini su 10, e che su 118 milioni di cittadini europei a rischio povertà, altra cifra terrificante, su 500 milioni una delle zone più ricche del mondo, 118 milioni sono a rischio povertà, e di questi più di 27 sono bambini. D'altronde una delle principali cause di povertà e di esclusione nei nostri paesi è, come sapete, il fatto di far parte di una famiglia numerosa. Le famiglie numerose sono quelle che hanno i maggiori rischi di trovarsi in difficoltà economica anche quando 1 o 2 genitori lavorano. E se poi noi siamo, come sapete, molto impegnati sulla parità di genere, verifichiamo un'ulteriore questione, che sono essenzialmente le donne sole con bambini a essere a ancora maggiore rischio di povertà e di esclusione, abbiamo un quadro che come socialisti e democratici non possiamo accettare. Sapete che nella scorsa campagna elettorale e in tutto questo mandato noi abbiamo lavorato molto sulla Youth Guarantee, sulla garanzia per i giovani, e quella per i bambini, avendo verificato che c'è una specifica situazione della prima infanzia, è il logico complemento della nostra battaglia perché i giovani che sono in età, in questo caso di formazione e di lavoro o di lavoro, possano avere un'opportunità. Ma è chiaro che l'enorme categoria dei net, di quelli che non sono né in formazione né in lavoro né in disoccupazione, cioè in cerca di lavoro, nasce dalla condizione di esclusione nella prima infanzia, quindi dalla difficoltà ad arrivare a un livello formativo, ma anche a un livello formativo oltre che di istruzione personale, tale da consentirgli poi di essere in grado di collocarsi sul mercato del lavoro, di avere un futuro decente. E quindi dalla esperienza della Youth Guarantee nasce la volontà di prevedere una garanzia specifica per i bambini. Nasce naturalmente da un lungo periodo di lavoro che il nostro gruppo, insieme ad altri naturalmente, ha fatto nel Parlamento europeo. Per ricordarvi alcune date, nel 2005 è stato integrato il children mainstreaming nelle politiche dell'Unione Europea, quindi è stata una prima introduzione anche di indicatori sociali per le diverse fasce di età, per cogliere il fenomeno da un punto di vista statistico. Nel 2013 c'è stata una raccomandazione della Commissione su investire nei bambini, spezzare il circolo vizioso dello svantaggio sociale. E poi nel 2017, questo l'ho appena ricordato Udo, è stato adottato il pilastro europeo dei diritti sociali. E finalmente quindi avviene una cosa per cui noi abbiamo molto lottato, il fatto che la dimensione sociale diventa un processo che si integra nella dimensione europea. Sapete che quando fu approvato il trattato costituzionale, poi diventato di Lisbona, si perse la battaglia per inserire fra le competenze concorrenti ovviamente dell'Unione Europea le competenze sociali. Però nel frattempo anche la consapevolezza di questi problemi è andata avanti e l'approvazione del pilastro a Göteborg del pilastro europeo dei diritti sociali finalmente, anche se non è ancora una competenza istituzionalizzata, inserita nei trattati, però finalmente è una dichiarazione di volontà di tutta l'Unione Europea e quindi attribuisce una maggiore titolarità di intervento all'Unione Europea. Quindi vogliamo subito approfittarne per la prossima campagna elettorale, vogliamo che questo tema battere il ferro finché c'è la consapevolezza di avere firmato questo accordo a Göteborg, che non si dimentichino che hanno preso degli impegni i nostri Stati, E quindi abbiamo avviato una discussione su una Child Guarantee che possa essere uno degli obiettivi di discussione nella prossima campagna elettorale europea e poi che nel prossimo mandato diventi una realtà, anche perché stiamo discutendo il nuovo quadro finanziario pluriennale, quindi è lì le nuove politiche settoriali, il nuovo fondo sociale che questa volta si chiama Plus, speriamo che Plus non vuole dire per il momento più soldi, vuol dire meno, quindi noi prima di tutto vogliamo che questo Plus si trasformi in più risorse, ma anche in più opportunità, in politiche migliori, in politiche che tengano conto anche di questo che è veramente un drammatico problema. E quindi che cosa vogliamo con la Child Guarantee, l'European Child Guarantee? Intanto vogliamo dire a tutti i genitori e ai bambini, quando non sono ancora in grado di capirlo, ma lo capiscono i loro genitori, o il loro genitore, che hanno dei diritti che devono venire ben declinati e poi trasformati. L'Unione Europea non interviene direttamente, ma può intervenire fornendo supporto dove ci sono le condizioni, non ci sono le condizioni per l'intervento degli Stati, perché gli Stati sono ad esempio in una situazione di crisi. E quindi le garanzie devono riguardare l'assistenza sanitaria gratuita, l'accesso all'istruzione, la situazione abitativa adeguata, è uno dei problemi molto gravi, l'assistenza all'infanzia che sia gratuita, sempre di più i costi dell'assistenza all'infanzia sono molto alti per le famiglie, e un'adeguata alimentazione, perché siamo anche in una situazione in cui ci sono bambini che non hanno un'alimentazione adeguata in Europa. Quindi questi sono veramente dei punti per noi fondamentali che devono essere trasformati in una proposta complessiva che diventi un impegno formale dell'Unione Europea con strumenti, indicatori di risultato, come abbiamo gli indicatori di riduzione della CO2, li abbiamo sottoscritti naturalmente negli obiettivi delle Nazioni Unite, i Sustainable Development Goal, ma dobbiamo tradurli anche in obiettivi quantitativi all'interno dell'Unione Europea di riduzione progressiva di tutti questi fenomeni e soprattutto di risultati positivi nella garanzia per tutti i punti che dicevamo. Voilà. Io non vado oltre perché ci sono degli esperti che interverranno e i nostri relatori nella Commissione EMPL che vi parleranno più in dettaglio del lavoro che stiamo facendo. Voglio dire che noi chiediamo quindi che ci sia da un lato un target europeo, un adeguato finanziamento degli obiettivi, ma che, lo dico vedendo anche rappresentanti attuali o passati di enti locali, che ci sia un piano fatto insieme agli enti locali, perché il Fondo Sociale Europeo, i fondi strutturali a cui si può attingere per questi obiettivi sono regionalizzati e quindi il piano deve coinvolgere gli enti locali, qui in Europa il Comitato delle Regioni, ma anche naturalmente gli enti locali, ma anche il Comitato Economico e Sociale che ha dentro di sé molti soggetti che operano nel campo sociale, le organizzazioni che operano in questo settore, in particolare quelli che si occupano dei diritti dei bambini, in modo che tutti insieme otteniamo anche che ci sia un monitoraggio dei risultati, non solo dei target, ma un monitoraggio del raggiungimento dei target. Questo è quello che noi ci proponiamo, è un pezzo di una battaglia per ridurre la povertà e contrastare la crescente diseguaglianza in Europa, che è da sempre, non da oggi ovviamente, un obiettivo delle nostre forze politiche e del nostro gruppo. Grazie.
Udo Billman, Group President, and Mercedes Bresso, Group Vice President, thank you so much for your contributions. And let's turn to our panel. We want this to be as informal as possible today. Like just one point, if you can use the microphone to your left for the web streaming today. We want to be as informal as possible, and it's quite a long session, so I want to involve the audience as much as possible as well, so you can be ready with your questions, and we'll try and engage you with the discussion as well. To open with, I asked the panel not to do keynote introductions, but to do 60 seconds, 90 seconds of an elevator pitch, who they are, what they're working on, why this subject is important to them. We still have two panelists who will be arriving very shortly, but I want to kick off. We'll just start at the end and work back here. So let me introduce to Maria Letizia Polizzi, Advocacy Advisor from Save the Children. 60 seconds, off you go.
60 seconds, we'll do our best. First of all, a big thank to the S&D for this initiative. It's one of the latest initiatives that the S&D has promoted on the need to reduce poverty and inequality in Europe. And in this case, we're discussing the need to reduce child poverty. We share the view that we need to reach this goal. It is a moral imperative, but also it is essential to ensure societal cohesion and to ensure that children can develop their potential and grow up and become active members of society. We have been part of some joint fights. We have been also promoting the pillar of social rights over the recent years, and we're also engaging in ensuring that the next multi-annual financial frameworks invest in children, and also in particular on the European Social Fund Plus. So as you also mentioned before, we have the budgetary framework, the policy instruments, but it's essential also that those elements are combined with political will and strong alliances from civil society, political groups, and institutions. So this is also why we are here today.
You running away?
I have to.
Pleasure.
Next occasion. Good luck. Stay tough.
Last time I interviewed him was over a beer. Okay, thank you for that. Our next speaker is Reka Tonyogi, Head of Advocacy at Eurochild. Reka.
Thank you very much and good afternoon. I'm working at Eurochild, which is a European network of children's rights organizations. And at Eurochild, we have been working on reducing child poverty in Europe since our network was founded in 2004. And we see this as an agenda where we can actually promote and protect children's rights in Europe and putting children at the top of the EU's agenda. As I was asked to be short, I'm going to cut to the chase and say that I agree with everything that has been mentioned before. It's unacceptable and it's morally and economically doesn't make sense that so many children, 1 in 4 in Europe, are at risk of poverty or social exclusion. And it is also not a new phenomenon in Europe. It has existed for a long time, even before the economic crisis. And the risk of poverty and social exclusion has always been higher for the population below 18 than if you take this indicator for the overall population. So what is important to underline is that child poverty is not only about living on a low income. It has many other factors. And from a child's perspective, it's also about not having the same opportunities to develop, to participate in activities, to have equal access to quality services, or to live in a decent environment. And because child poverty has so many components, the solution also has to have many components. And the recommendation on investing in children, breaking the cycle of disadvantage from 2013, recognized that and was excellent in terms of framing the solution in a very clear but comprehensive way. And by that I mean that it looked at income inequality on the one hand, but also at access to services and, importantly, to the component of children's participation in decision-making and in the community. It was also taking a rights-based approach and taking children's best interest into account, and it aimed at inspiring member states to boost their policies and public finances to ensure the well-being of all children while providing targeted support to the children most in need. But the question now is what will happen after 2020, and how can we ensure that the next MFF, the next multi-annual financial framework, is able to mobilize more resources for this important priority. And so we think that the Child Guarantee offers a unique opportunity in that sense to design a support framework that helps member states prioritize domestic policies and intervention measures that address the root causes of poverty. And it will not only allow us to upscale the investments coming from the EU to tackle child poverty, but also to monitor and support member states in their efforts. And we are working in the alliances that Save the Children mentioned as well on investing in children, and we are also partnering together in the feasibility study on the Child Guarantee. Thank you.
Thank you, Rika. Excellent. Our next speaker is Daphne Arendt, and she's Research Manager, Social Policies Unit at Eurofund. Daphne.
Okay, so thank you very much for inviting Eurofund today to contribute to this very important conference on the Child Guarantee. It's an honor to be here. Some of the things that are in my minute have already been said, but I think it's good if we have some unity because it strengthens the arguments. So as said, I work in the Social Policy Unit at Eurofund. I'm a researcher there. And through our research, we provide knowledge about strategies that address poverty for vulnerable groups. And what I want to use my minute for today is to stress the importance of monitoring the social situation of children. Evidence-based research has made it possible to identify the groups of children most at risk of poverty. And through continuous monitoring, we also know that the depth of poverty, in fact, is getting worse in many member states. I think that's a worrying finding. And the other thing that's on the rise is in-work poverty. And in fact, most children at risk of poverty live in working households. Now, what does Eurofund do in the context of child poverty? We carry out studies, have carried out studies on families in the economic crisis and on what the effect of the economic crisis was on in-work poverty, on social mobility, and currently we are also studying how different social groups perceive the access and quality of public services. And what all these studies show is how important the integrated approach to tackle the multidimensional aspects of child poverty is. And maybe I can end by pointing to a finding in the latest Social Protection Committee annual report that shows that even in a number of the richer member states, we see less good social outcomes on some of the subcomponents of the ORI child poverty indicator. For instance, in Belgium, Germany, and Finland, we see that the share of children living in quasi-jobless households appears to be a key challenge. And Denmark and Sweden, which of course still do very well, but nevertheless, it seems that there, the social protection of children appears to lose its effectiveness. And the point that I want to make is that there's a lot of evidence that children are, in fact, the victim of growing inequality in Europe. And I hope that the European Parliament can use these findings to obtain widespread support for the guarantee so that the disadvantage can be tackled across the whole quality of life spectrum.
Daphne, thank you. Brando Benefei is in the house. I'll give him a moment to settle down, and then you get your 60-second intro. Our next speaker is from the European Commission. It's Raquel Cortés Herrera. There's a bit of a role in there, isn't it? We were debating the capacity to roll R's, which I'm failing miserably on. Deputy Head of Unit at DG Employ, and specialising in disability and inclusion. 60 seconds, all yours.
Thank you very much, Brian. I have to admit that was a difficult one. Good afternoon, everybody. Many thanks for inviting me to be here today. I guess the reason why I am invited is because I am Deputy Head of Unit of the unit that is in charge of implementing the preparatory action that was voted by the European Parliament on the Child Guarantee. So I will have the occasion, I guess, in the course of the discussion to update you where are we with that. But actually, I think that my real relevant capacity here is not that one. is the fact that I am the deputy head of unit of a unit that, preparatory action or not, has been working on the issue of child poverty for already a long time. So what I would like to use my minute for is to say that, yes, I share the diagnosis. It is not acceptable to have the percentage of children at risk of poverty and social exclusion that we have currently in the European Union. It is a matter of concern, and this is why I am not surprised at all that President Juncker made the commitment to look at it, because actually we are looking at it. We are looking at it already for a very long time. DG Justice has an entire unit working on rights of the child, and my unit works, as I said, on the social inclusion of children in situation of poverty. So I would like to contest a bit the fact that, okay, it's now time, we are not waiting anymore, it's not for the next college. No, I mean, no, sorry, but it's something that we are doing and we are working on already for quite a long time, and we have the intention to continue doing so.
Brando Benefei, 60 seconds. Your quick introduction of why this is important to you.
Well, I'm so convinced that it's such an important project that exactly yesterday I presented among my 152 amendments to the European Social Fund a significant number exactly regarding this, including the children dimension in the European Social Fund and proposing inside the European Social Fund a significant modification that includes a specific allocation of resources. We are talking about 10 billion euros for child guarantee. That, as you know, it's today at the project level. We have this upcoming study that we discussed also together with the Commission, and stakeholders are involved into that, but we want that as a political objective for the Socialists and Democrats to advance. We see the need for such a policy because too many young children are in Europe at the risk of poverty, of not being able to access basic needs that are fundamental for them to have success in their future life. And we think that, okay, there are already policies there, but we don't see a holistic framework that only the child guarantee can provide. And so we want the Commission to be convinced, the Member States to be on board, that we need to have a specific instrument for that and not just have the situation as it is today. That is, okay, we already have things working on that, but the results are not satisfactory enough. Otherwise, we won't be discussing about this.
Thank you, Brando. Mercedes, you're staying with us for a bit. So, yeah, okay. So, what I want to talk about first is how we identify child poverty and what are the indicators. So I'm going to go to Daphne first in this, and then maybe you want to follow up. Daphne, how do we identify child poverty, and what are we really looking for?
Okay, thank you, Brian. I'll try to answer that. So we've mentioned the figure many times already today, the 26%. That figure is based on the official statistic that looks at the at-risk of poverty or social exclusion rate of children. It's about children 0 to 17, and it's composed of the three elements of the at-risk of poverty or social exclusion indicator. So it looks at the risk of poverty. So that's relative risk of poverty based on the poverty threshold. It looks at severely material deprivation, and it looks at living in quasi-jobless households. And that as a share of the total population aged 0 to 17. So that's the statistic we hear about the most and that we use when we talk. But there are lots of other indicators available to monitor child poverty. I think it's important to distinguish between the material and the social indicators. So at a material level, you have researchers that look at the relative poverty risk gap. but you can also look at, for instance, the in-work poverty rate. So there are many material indicators, and then it's also important to distinguish between whether it's relative or absolute. So I think the issue with relative income indicators is always that they are volatile, so they are affected by this threshold. So in times of crisis, the indicator or the median went down, and in a way you then don't capture poverty, but it's there. But it's just because the whole level went down. So there's a big reason to also look at material deprivation. And as I said, that is already a subcomponent of the ORI indicator, of course. Now, there is a new indicator, and that's in fact the child deprivation index. And I think that's a great development, because this index actually looks at the living conditions of children in the EU without making sort of assumptions about the resources of the parents. So it's really about child-specific issues, and it's thanks to the work that was developed by Anne Guillot, who's here, and her colleagues, and it consists of 12 children and 5 household items. So I hope that we will be seeing more use of that indicator, and also in general of information that is based on children. But as we've said today also, poverty is multidimensional, so it's not just about material resources. We also need to look at, for instance, the prevalence of housing problems. We need to look at poor health, and we definitely need to look at access to good quality services. At Eurofound, we have the European Quality of Life Survey that looks at this broader concept of quality of life, and that for instance, one finding I wanted to share with you is in the context also of poverty and nutrition. For instance, the survey shows that there is in Europe a problem with, or people make choices to economize by not buying proper food, or by not buying vegetables for their children. So I think that's a factor to consider. And the last thing maybe that I could say is that on the one hand, we need to look at children, but children also grow up in households. And as we said already, it's very dependent on the social situation of these different household types. Ms. Bresse already mentioned that large families have big problems. So that's one of the big risk groups in Europe, equally disabled parents, and of course, single parents. And some of our research that we did when we looked at families in the economic crisis showed that there are actually member states where more than 2/3 of large families or single parents are at risk of poverty or social exclusion.
Mercedes, in this context as well, do you think there's a certain invisibility of the problem? That yes, people are aware that there are families in difficulty, children without proper nutrition, but as a social problem that could have a clear solution, do you think this problem is politically invisible?
Yes, I think so. Is not invisible, but is not so visible, because children, you see them at school, and this is difficult to sometimes to know what is the situation. And it's perhaps also invisible because we don't want to see. It's too incredible to accept, and so people tend to reject the idea. According to what you asked before, I think we have to count a lot on the local authorities, because each children, each mother in difficult situation can be detected at local level. They are known. Sometimes the problem is not to have a complex policy, so you intervene on a single question, but not on all the causes of exclusion. And also, in a lot of time, the local authority don't have enough money and instrument for investment also to intervene in a global way. I think what is important is the holistic approach to take all the problem on board, and so to try to intervene in a very more efficient way.
Let me ask Brando about this as well. Do we really need a child guarantee? What's different about this policy?
I think that the problem is that today we have a very fragmented approach to children, we can say problems in terms of children with disadvantaged backgrounds. The idea is to have an integrated approach that can touch we can say the multidimensional aspects of child poverty, because we are touching upon healthcare issues, education, childcare, decent housing, adequate nutrition. And this needs to be tackled with a very strong cooperation between the European level and the member states and the European funds managing authorities. So this is why I think that inside, because of its flexible and multi-level, we can say, activity, I think that the European Social Fund is a good place where to implement the child guarantee, and that's why we have been working on that. And I think that this is why we cannot just leave the situation as it is, where on some aspects that we consider in this multi-dimension of the child poverty, the European Union can act more directly. In other aspects, is very much left to the goodwilling of the member states, because we know that we have the pillar of social rights. I was late exactly because of a meeting about that, and I excuse for my delay. But the pillar of social rights is still something that, if you look at it, it touches upon the children issue in many principles, especially the principle 9 of the pillar is about the fact that children have the right to affordable early childhood education and care of good quality, and the right to protection from poverty. But today, this is something that is not really coherently put into a strategy. And I think that we need a proper instrument for doing that. Then we will see now from the feasibility study that is being done what the stakeholders say. But what we see, and that's why politically we have put our strong support also as S&D, is that we see the need for that. We see that coming from those that work on child poverty every day.
Thank you, Brando. Raquel, you want to respond? So it's clear the Commission understands the issue, but there are so many diverse strands to this, and it's normal that as a policy develops, as law develops, that at some point you consolidate. Is this the time to consolidate and put it under a single brand?
Okay. There are so many issues that I have to see how do I structure my thinking in order to make myself understood.
Yeah, fine.
Yes, I mean, the issue is multidimensional, and we agree on that. And that's why the Investing in Children recommendation of 2013 was structured as it was, because it includes already 3 different pillars that I think it's Reka who explained, tackle all the different dimensions or at least most of the different dimensions of this problem. There is one first pillar on income issues, second pillar on access to services issues, and the third pillar on participation issues. Whether or not another instrument is needed is something that for me it's a bit difficult to tackle at this point in time, precisely because I have just commissioned a feasibility study. So anything that I might say might prejudge the conclusions of this study, and this is something that I don't want to do. The study is looking not only at feasibility, but is also looking at added value, because we all acknowledge that there are already things that are in place, and we have to see whether the child guarantee as it is proposed would bring a real added value compared to what already exists at European level, at national level, and at local level. What still surprises me a little bit every time that I hear talking about the child guarantee, and I think it is no secret that the Commission expressed doubts about it when the preparatory action was first proposed, is that such an action for me is composed of mainly two things: a policy framework and the financial means to implement this policy framework. From my point of view, the policy framework exists not only in the form of the Investing in Children recommendation, but exists on the form of Principle 11 of the European Pillar of Social Rights, that is in itself a strategy, because it's in itself the policy goal. Every child must be protected from poverty. It cannot be more clear than that. And it exists in the content of the European semester country reports and country-specific recommendations that we issue every year. When you look at the country reports, there is basically no single member state that doesn't have something in the country report referring to children's rights and child poverty. And we have numerous country-specific recommendations from north to south and from east to west that refer to that. That, of course, needs to be accompanied with the financial means, but the financial means are there. The current ESF earmarks 20% of it that member states need to spend on social inclusion purposes, and the proposal for the ESF Plus brings this 20% to 25%. Now, it is not because, unfortunately, it is not because the money is available that the money is well used or well spent or directed there where we would like it to be directed. But I'm sorry, at a certain point in time, the responsibility for that goes from the hands of the European Union, who makes the funds available, to the responsibility of the national authorities that have to prioritize the spending in their operating programs. And this is a step in which we cannot force the hand of member states. We are trying to improve the intervention logic, and it's a pity that Marianne Paraskevas is not here, because she would be the person to explain this in more detail than me. But we are trying to improve the intervention logic in the sense of saying, okay, we have Principle 11 of the European Pillar of Social Rights. We have the Investing in Children recommendation. This should be reflected in country reports and country-specific recommendations that should point at the structural reforms needed in member states in order to tackle this problem. And the structural reforms that, according to the Commission, are needed and then endorsed by the Council should be the main focus of the spending priorities of the member states when it comes to the spending of the European funds. So this for me, when you take all of this together, is comprehensive, is coherent, and is your child guarantee. Now, having said this, we are having a feasibility study. We are totally open. The result of the feasibility study is totally open-ended. We will see what comes out from it, and we will take it from there. But I am not prejudging, neither in favor nor against.
Thank you for that. Mercedes, you have some remarks.
Dopo devo andare via, fatemelo dire in italiano perché così mi viene meglio, e quindi mi scuso perché poi abbiamo il bureau e devo andare via, quindi una cosa però la volevo dire. Certamente che il lavoro ci sia e sia in corso e sia stato fatto, ne siamo coscienti, lo abbiamo detto, ricordato. Qui però io credo che l'Europa, se vuole parlare ai propri cittadini, deve riuscire a parlare con una capacità di sintesi, cioè deve avere delle bandiere che sono le sue politiche principali, quelle che ritiene importanti da adesso verso il futuro, e non c'è dubbio che, così come non siamo certo ancora a una Youth Guarantee che funzioni, e quindi ci dobbiamo ancora lavorare, però anzi dobbiamo evitare di creare un'aspettativa se non riusciamo a trasformarla in realtà, però abbiamo dato un'indicazione chiara di politiche anche agli Stati e alle regioni e agli enti locali. E qui è la stessa cosa, cioè io credo che se noi potessimo tradurre in una sorta di piccolo passaporto, no? Che distribuiamo a tutte le famiglie che hanno bambini, in cui c'è l'elenco dei diritti, c'è a cura dell'ente locale che lo distribuisce quali sono gli strumenti già concretamente a disposizione, e naturalmente questo spinge a aumentarli, perché ci devi scrivere qualcosa sul passaportino che dai, no? Ci sono i diritti europei, dall'altro lato la traduzione di questi diritti nella realtà di quel territorio, e dei numeri di telefono o una mail a cui fare riferimento per una persona che ti aiuta a identificare quali sono i problemi che hai concretamente, perché è vero, per qualcuno è la casa, per qualcuno è l'istruzione, per qualcun altro sono altre questioni, può essere la salute, e aiutare ad affrontarli concretamente, dicendoti quali sono gli strumenti disponibili. Spesso ci sono, ma spesso le famiglie sono le famiglie un po' più benestanti che riescono a sfruttare tutte le opportunità. Quelle più in difficoltà sono quelle che non riescono a sfruttarli. Ovviamente un bambino però, se arriva col suo passaporto e dice mamma ho questi diritti, procurameli, spinge anche i genitori ad attivarsi, e attivarsi sapendo come fare ad attivarsi. Ecco, noi pensiamo a qualcosa in cui, chiaro che l'Unione Europea non può fare questo, ma può suggerire delle politiche per rendere sintetica, chiara la lista dei diritti, e per renderli operativi. Si dice che uno possa acquisirli concretamente, perché altrimenti lo scriviamo nella carta e frustriamo i nostri cittadini che ci dicono l'Europa ci promette delle cose ma poi non è in grado di darci nulla. Grazie ancora e mi scuso, ma sì. Udo è già andato via, ma ci aspetta tutti alle 4.
No problem. We're doing lunch tomorrow at American Chamber of Commerce, I think, for the European elections debate. Brando, yes, please. Yes.
No, but very simply, I think that it's all okay, and on the recommendation, we are in line with that. We even mentioned that in my amendments. But the point is, with CSR, with the semester, with the pillar, that's not binding. That's not binding. We need something stronger. This is what we see. Because what we have been doing until now, it's all very useful, and we need to push for making it all these instruments and cycles and the pillar that I mentioned to work in the best way. But the impression we have is that for such a urgent problem, these coordination and non-binding instruments are not enough. They're not enough. They should be binding. They are not, and we know that. So we need to step up, and we have enough data. It's good to have more studies, more feasibility, but we have data. I think the stakeholders can confirm that the data are there. So probably we need a bit more action. And I think we should work together. It should not be a contraposition. I hope that we can find a way to work together, not to, because I think we all share the objectives. So I think we need just to find a way just to get I turned it off, to get over the situation where we don't see enough results in terms of the objective that you mentioned, the pillar, the recommendation 9, and we need more. 11. We need more results. We don't have them. Otherwise, again, we won't have this situation with children in Europe.
Okay. Just, I'm not neglecting the end of the table here. Brando will have to go at a time I'm not entirely sure, so I want to maximize his time, and then we're going to talk about the MFF and the other elements in just a moment. And I also want to take some questions from the floor, and I think Raquel wants to respond to Brando now.
No, very quickly. I mean, I would love to have legal basis, to have legislative instruments in the field of social policy. Unfortunately, that is not the case. I mean, Title 10 of the treaty doesn't give the Commission the possibility to propose much legislation in the field of social policy. Plus, I am sure that if we would do it, we would have immediately the national parliaments and the Council on our back invoking the principle of subsidiarity, because this is exactly what happened when we proposed the pillar, that even being non-binding, when it was submitted to the Member States, they didn't touch a single comma of the Commission proposal on the text of the principles, but they reinforce all the text in the preamble in line of saying that this remains a competence of the Member States and that is not for the European Union to decide on this type of issues. So I'm afraid that, yes, we can wish for, but the instruments that we have as they are. So we try to do our best with the instruments that we have.
That's a fair point, Brando. How do you get around that? Surely there's a workable solution.
Well, on one end, there is a truth to the fact that we, as S&D, would like to have a stronger social policy possibility in the legislative action, in the legal base for them. But we think at the same time that when we are talking about children's rights, we can do more with what we have. And we have already, I think, opened a way, and I hope that we can, knowing the fact that we are in a democratic structure based on different powers and the Council and us, that we can build as much as possible in this mandate, working on the new MFF as we are doing. On the other hand, also to work for the future. The European Union is not ending in 9 months, and we will have another. I'm sure it's not, and we are having also a new political momentum, and I think we will need to build on that. But we can get more at this time, and we hope that the Commission can play such a proactive role as the Commission has played on the social pillar. It was just explained how there was a lot of resistance from the Member States. We know that. We have been supportive of Commission's effort on that, and we delivered. Okay, it's an imperfect instrument, but it's already delivering some results. We want more. We want to get more when we talk about something where everyone is ashamed of saying that he doesn't want to do more. Who will say that will not want to do more for children? It's very difficult, also politically. And so we want to really be putting on the spotlight the real situation, that too many children today are still not having access to the basic rights they have as Europeans. And for that, we need to unite the Member States, unite the political groups, we hope so, for some solutions that can be acceptable. We know this tension, but we think that we can, working together, get some more than what we already have now. That, as I try to underline, it's still too much, in the end, leaving the possibility to just not really do very much.
But it's part of the problem that, as Raquel says, the member states are afraid that subsidiarity has not been applied. They're being compelled to do things they may or may not want to do. Is the political approach not to incentivize rather than compel, to create such an attractive package that they don't want to refuse it?
I think we need to think about that. This can be an idea of how to work to find a solution. But I want to get back to the basic point is that on anything we hear the issue that this is not EU competence. I've been working, yes, on so many things. I've been working so much about the youth guarantee, for example, how much I heard about the fact that this was not to be done, that this was not okay. We know this game. It's like when some employers saying that if you give more, not all, luckily, but we know that there are. It's not staying on, but it's fine. I don't know.
Yeah, your left-hand side.
Okay. Sorry. It's like when they say that if you give too many rights to the workers, we will never hire anyone more. But as we have been progressing on the social rights, people are still hired, industries are still there. So we know this kind of game of interests, and we know that the subsidiarity is always there, used also sometimes to just not take responsibility. And obviously, we cannot underestimate the legal constraints, okay, but we know that European Union, I could make many examples, we have been able to push a bit further towards some more convergence and cohesion, also looking at very specific social objectives. I'm optimistic that we can do more, and this is the objective of our political family.
Just, I want to stay on for a second, then I want to take questions from the floor. You're facing an election next year. Is it not easier and clarifying for the electorate to understand, as Mercedes said, a pithy policy which is clear and articulate, rather than explaining there are 25 measures we're taking across the European Union at varying degrees of subsidiarity? How do you explain what you're doing for children, for families, to the electorate?
Yeah, we have already put it clear that not just that, I would say at least on the social issues, a few other central proposals, but one of them will be the child guarantee, will be one of our pillar proposals, we can say, as a party of European Socialists and as Socialists and Democrats for the next European elections. Because, again, if we are as we are as a political group, but I think it's something that should be a very shared objective for social justice, for more equality in Europe, for a fairer Europe, giving more opportunity for children is fundamental. And it's clear that what we have now, semi-binding recommendations, instruments, we are not delivering. We need to deliver. Otherwise, yes, in that case, there will be no future for the European Union.
Okay, we're going to come and start talking about the MFF, and it's the second other end of the table, with patience. And I take a couple of questions from you now. If you just tell us who you are, who you're working for, and a short question. I'm not going to take any lobby statements today. Okay, so any questions just now? Whoa, sedated. Yeah, one here and then here. Bilja.
I will speak in Lithuanian language. Please be prepared to listen in Lithuania, not in English. Aš dalyvausiu antroji paneliniai diskusijoje, bet tiesiog noriu pasinaudoti progą ir pateikti klausimą poniai Gererai, komisijos atstoviai, nes antroji paneliniai diskusijoje komisijos atstovų dėja nebebus. Ir dar, žiūriu dabar čia į mūsų diskutantus, kalbam apie vaikų skurdą ir didžioji dauguma moterų, kaip visą laiką, atsakingos yra už vaikus, už skurdą, už socialinius klausimus. Ačiū, Brando, kad esi čia. Ačiū, kad gini, kad dirbi šitoj srity. Na, o dabar mano klausimas, ponė Gererai. Mes iš tikrųjų turime labai daug įvairių ir įpareigojančių ir tarptautinių dokumentų, kur kalbam apie vaikų teisės. Tai Jungtinių tautų vaikų teisių konvencija. Tai yra ES pagrindinių teisių hartija, tai yra 2013 metų Europos komisijos rekomendacija dėl vaikų gerovės, tai yra ne vienas mūsų pranešimas Europos parlamento, kur mes akcentavom kovą su vaikų skurdu. Pagaliau tai yra iš tikrųjų pernykštis socialinių teisių ramstis, kuris turi būti pagrįstas tam tikrais konkrečiais sprendimais. Ir žiūrėkit, kokia situacija. Imkime esamą situaciją vaikų skurdo srityje. 2010-2016. Kaip Jūs manot, kiek mums pavyko bendrom pastangom sumažinti vaikų skurdą? Atkreipiu dėmesį, 25 milijonai vaikų skursta Europos Sąjungoje. Per 6 metus kiek sumažinom skurdą? Gėda pasakyti. 1%. 1% sumažėjo vaikų skurdas. Tai kokiu mums daugiau bereikia įrodymų, kad vienos valstybės nesugebės įveikti vaikų skurdo. Ir kad jeigu mes esam bendroj ES šeimoj, reiškia, mes turime turėti ir europinius instrumentus tam, kad galėtumėm kiekvienam vaikui pažiūrėti į akis. Tai kokiu dar reikia tyrimų? Akivaizdu yra, kad neveikia esamos rekomendacinės priemonės. Ir be vaikų garantijos nepadarysim nieko.
Thank you. Ricardo here.
Do you want to collect the questions or do you want me to answer?
No, you answer.
Okay. I already replied to that. No, we haven't managed what we said we would manage in the EU 2020 objectives. We haven't managed it for child poverty. We haven't managed it for poverty in general. Are there explanations to that? Yes, there are some explanations to that. The year brackets that you are referring to are the years of the worst economic and financial crisis the world, and not only the European Union, has faced since, I don't know, the 39 crisis. Can this explain part of the fact that we haven't succeeded? I think it can explain part. It's maybe only part, but it's maybe a fair part of it. I know that there are many documents and many studies around there, and our intention is not actually to collect more data. We know that data exists. Eurofund has just given a brilliant explanation of the data that exists. Our study intends to be a bit different. What we are trying to analyze in our study is not, it's not another collection of data, is what does exist, is it working or not, and is there a chance that what is proposed can work better or not? Is feasible, can bring added value, is cost efficient? This is what we are going to trying to analyze in this study that we are just commissioned. Because if the reply to these questions is no, is not feasible, doesn't bring added value, and is not cost efficient, then I don't see a reason to implement it. If the answers to those questions are yes, then there is a case for implementing it. But this I will tell you in 18 months when we finish the feasibility study. Indeed, there are many instruments that are around, and some of them are not binding, and this might explain also the unsuccess of this instrument. But there are others, like the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, that is binding for the signatories. And it's because it is binding that has had more effects than the non-binding EU instruments. I would argue not necessarily. So at the end of the day, whatever we do, if there is not political will from the member states, we will not progress.
Yeah, quick reply.
Sorry.
Aš tik labai trumpai. Tai ar jūs pritarėte tam, kad būtų skirta ateinančiam finansiniai perspektyvai 10 milijardų eurų vaikų garantijai ir vaikų skurdo įveikimui? Taip ar ne? Just very short answer, yes or no?
I'm not answering till I have the results of the feasibility study.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I can't.
Sorry.
Brando, go ahead.
But I hope that we will decide on the new ESF before 18 months. Otherwise, it's a problem for the MFF. So, but I just want to say that we cannot compare a UN convention to instruments inside the EU framework. I mean, this is like, I mean, I understand the comparison, but it's not making much sense, in my opinion. But anyway, I hope that until the feasibility studies gets to the end, I hope that the Commission, in the meanwhile, will be constructive towards our proposals to include more children-oriented elements inside the ESF and not just raise the minimum for social inclusion with no clear direction on children, or at least enough from our side. We also propose to raise that to 30 from 25, but that's even another issue on which we will need to discuss.
Thank you. One more question, then we're going to go to MFF. You still a question? Tell us who you are, please.
It's not really a question, but to address to the European Commission, of course. I think that, no, I'm sorry, but the problem, I think you are right, you have not the legal basis to bind the member states, of course, but you have the money as European Commission. And if you have the money and if you design a financial instrument that allocate money to local authorities, member states, and so on, to address the problem of child poverty in a multidimensional way, of course, member states and local authorities will use this money exactly for that. What we ask as a child guarantee is not the feasibility study. What we ask is how to design this financial instrument.
Just before you answer that as well, there was this financial instrument that was created at the beginning of the Commission called the Juncker Plan, and they leveraged a lot of money for a particular purpose. Is it unreasonable to create a new financial instrument?
I don't know whether it's unreasonable or not, but I don't know whether it's needed, actually. You're right. I mean, we have the money. We have some money, because, I mean, the budget is 1% GDP. I mean, let's relativize the money that we have. But we have some money. And the money is there for social inclusion purposes. All of them very legitimate, because, of course, now we want 10 million for children, but in my unit, I also deal with disabled, I deal with homeless, I deal with Roma communities, I deal with people with migrant background, all of them vulnerable groups, all of them disadvantaged, all of them falling in the social inclusion chapter of the ESF. So, I mean, I have to make my trade-offs there. But that's not the reason. The thing is that, I mean, indeed, I try to reinforce this logic, saying that where I have identified as Commission structural problems in the member states through the country-specific recommendation that affect the situation of children, that should be an investment priority for the member state in using the EU funds. Okay, but there are member states with many country-specific recommendations on many different topics, and the money is the money that it is. And then there are operating programs that, because the management of the fund is shared management, it is for the national authority to define where do they put the priority. Now, the first speaker was saying, is there someone that is not going to understand and prioritize? Well, maybe there is someone that is not going to understand and prioritize, but maybe because they prioritize other things. But I am not judging on this. As European Commission, I put the money on the table, and I tell the member states, you want to use the money for fighting child poverty, is there, you can. The project that Mercedes was describing about making this passport with children's rights is something that any member state can today go to the ESF managing authority and say, I want to put this project in place today, not in the next MFF, not in the next college. Today, this project can be financed by ESF. So it's not done. I cannot reply why it is not done. I cannot reply why the youth guarantee in a country like the one I know best that has skyrocketing levels of youth unemployment is not taken up. Why is Spain not using the youth guarantee to tackle youth unemployment? I don't have the slightest clue, but it's a reality. And the fact is that what we see from the use of the ESF is that there is not the necessary uptake today of the funds that are available today. We don't have sufficient projects that are put to the ESF, and we don't have sufficiently good projects. And we face the request for ever more money, but the truth is that the member states are not making proper use of the money that is today on the table.
Okay. Rebecca, it's how do you? We're hearing that the money has not been used, but you would advocate actually that the money needs to be upscaled as well to achieve more. Would that be right? And in the context of the MFF, yeah.
Yeah, so if we're looking at the MFF, I would like to make one point that can contribute to upscaling, and that is related to the national strategic frameworks on poverty reduction and social inclusion, which is a requirement for cohesion policy to be spent in member states within that minimum earmarking for social inclusion, which exists in the current framework and is likely to stay in the next one. Based on the proposals from the European Commission, and there's also so this requirement to have national strategic frameworks on poverty reduction and social inclusion is kept, and the novelty is that it specifically mentions children. So member states have to elaborate how they're going to invest in reducing of child poverty to be able to use ESF resources relevant for poverty reduction. And what we're, so this is really important for us because that will allow member states to invest money into projects which are in line with the national framework. It's necessary to have that kind of framework in place and not just indeed have different small-scale projects, but that they're coordinated in a way. So that's a huge improvement already. And I also wanted to make the point that was raised earlier, that we can do more with what we have, which I think Brando mentioned, that indeed the uptake is not good. But if we can reference more the need to invest in children and the need to invest in tackling child poverty through the ESF+, there can already be progress made. Also, a new improvement is that a specific objective in the ESF+ regulation mentioning the need to address child poverty, which is a novelty and has not been there yet.
Okay. Maria Letizia, let me ask you about MFF in the context of what more can be done to invest in children? Where would you put the money? What would you put into the MFF that isn't on the table at the moment?
I think the issue of putting the money, and it's not just about how much money, but how it is then allocated, and of course for what measures, and how also civil society can play a role in making sure also that different constituencies are represented. So, for example, when it comes to the role of civil society, the regulation for the European Social Fund Plus maintained an article on the principle that civil society organizations and other stakeholders needs to work in partnership. And we, as Save the Children and other members of the Alliance for Investing in Children and other stakeholders believe that 2% can go to also build capacity of civil society organizations, also to monitor, to implement to contribute to the designing, implementation, and monitoring of the ESF Plus programs. And another issue that is also at stake when we talk about the use of EU funds is also how they're used in the long term. Is it done in a strategic way? It is also linked to national plans, strategies to reduce poverty, because we know from studies also from the European Social Policy Network that The European Social Fund, the FEA, the European Regional Development Fund have contributed to promote some services, projects on early childhood education and care, or services for children without facing homelessness, or have contributed to strengthening child protection services. But there are also key issues around the sustainability in the long term, and on the fact that in many cases it is not, those funds are not integrated well at national level. So I think this is also a key issue to keep in mind when thinking of EU funds, current funds, and also for the next programming period.
What do you think is missing in terms of sustainability? What needs to change?
For sure, better link with the national plans, making sure that those national plans are also based on an accurate analysis of the situation of the problems linked to poverty reduction, child poverty reduction. But as I said before, also better equipping, continue to train civil society organization to be part of this, of the implementation of the programs is also key.
Definitely, in terms of the Sustainable Development Goals, where does the Child Guarantee fit with that? Sorry.
I think there's quite a bit of fit. And in a way, I think what's nice about the Child Guarantee is that it's forward-looking. So if the Sustainable Development Goals aim towards 2030, I was impressed to see how much contribution there is from the Child Guarantee. So there is obviously ending poverty, but it also looks at nutrition. It looks at universal health care, which is one of the things that the Child Guarantee is looking at. It's looking at fighting inequality, which is obviously an outcome of the Child Guarantee. And I'm sure I'm forgetting, gender equality, you could argue, is another one. So there's a lot of match.
If I may just add up on it, I think that the European Commission is fully into the reflection process on how are we translating internally for the EU, the UN agenda on the Sustainable Development Goals, and how we are going to, make that a reality for the European Union. And our current state of thinking, but I say our current state of thinking, even though I don't think that's going to change dramatically, is that when it comes to the social part of the Sustainable Development Goals, our framework for implementation is the European Pillar of Social Rights. And so from that point of view, Principle 11, it's clearly matching the two ends. So, it's Principle 11, it's how the European Commission, the European Union can, the development and implementation of Principle 11 is how the European Union can translate internally the Sustainable Development Goals when it comes to child-related issues. So I agree that there is a lot of match there and a lot of synergy, potential synergy.
Definitely, the idea of the Child Guarantee, we started part of the session with this as well. What's different about this approach from your perspective? Why is a Child Guarantee necessary?
Yeah, good question. I think we've debated a lot. What I recognize in the Child Guarantee is, in fact, a little bit contradictory to what has been said before, is that so far there is a lot of fragmentation. And even though the 2013 recommendation was a huge step forward, I believe we know from our studies and from the research that you really need to use this integrated approach, and that integrated approach cannot be, well, the name says it itself, cannot be fragmented. So you know, I'm not getting into the political discussion because that's not my remit, and it's subsidiarity. I understand.
But you deal with the evidence-based side of this as well. So
it's
are you saying that
very much on the basis? Yes.
Okay, so on the evidence side, you're saying that the evidence points towards a less fragmented approach, a more holistic approach, an integrated approach.
Yes. I mean, we see the countries that do better, where the system is holistic. It tackles child poverty, or it tackles poverty. Somebody said it earlier, the redistribution of how money is redistributed is an integrated approach. There's a lot of focus on in-kind benefits in these countries that do well. And I think, by the way, I don't know, maybe that's something that's going to be mentioned in the second session, but we haven't spoken much about that side of the child guarantee, and I think that's an important side, this idea to actually develop in Europe. Again, I know it affects the principle of subsidiarity because the countries are responsible, but the political commitment to have free childcare or free education or access to healthcare services for vulnerable children is something that, in terms of breaking the cycle of disadvantage, we would need if we want to see progress, at least from research, in terms of child poverty.
Okay. I want to take another couple of questions. Questions right now? Do you want to reply first?
No, just to complement, because I mean, I think that what you just said is very interesting, because I still maintain my view that the approach of the Investing in Children recommendation is an integrated and holistic approach. Now, what may be happening is that indeed the implementation that is done of that recommendation by the member states is fragmented. But this is, again, something that we cannot solve at EU level, because our approach is already holistic and is already integrated. And if it's not properly applied by the member states, that is something that escapes our control to a very large extent. However, I will make sure that during the feasibility study, we consult Eurofund on that one, and we have a dialogue on how to go about it.
Do you think it's plausible that a large part of the implementation failure, which clearly I think everybody here agrees is happening, that implementation failure is a consequence of lack of resources to begin with?
I wouldn't call it implementation failure to start with, because even though it's a failure from the point of view we haven't reduced child poverty, and this is clearly a failure. But together with the adoption of the European Pillar of Social Rights on April last year, the Commission published a staff working document that was taking stock on how the Investing in Children recommendation of 2013 had been implemented in the member states. So it was not really an evaluation, but it was some stock-taking exercise. Taking into account that this is a recommendation, so it's not binding, so it's much more difficult than a regulation that is now you do this and full stop. And that is very recent, because in terms of structural changes, we are talking about a 4 years, so 2013 to 2017. And actually what we saw in this exercise, in which we consulted a lot of stakeholders and networks of policy experts dealing with child issues and etc., is that for the first and second pillar of the Investing in Children recommendation, so access to income and access to services, there has been substantial progress made. While the pillar of the recommendation where we see really no progress and a need for investing much more is the third pillar, which is on participation. Which is counterintuitive, because actually the first and second pillar are those that would need more funds but are progressing better, while the third one is the one that needs less funds but is progressing less. So no, I don't think it's a problem of resources. It's a problem of just wanting to do it.
Okay, Rebecca wanted to reply. Any questions on the floor? Yeah. Let Rebecca and then I'll come back to you straight after, okay?
Thank you, Brian. I also wanted to answer that question on the added value.
Sure.
And maybe come at it from a different perspective, because I agree that the comprehensive approach is there in the recommendation. But What we do not have is a tracking of how much the EU is spending on children, in particular tackling child poverty, so there is no child budgeting happening. And child poverty, as I mentioned before, has not been a priority in the EU budget before, so that would be a step forward. And child poverty should be mainstreamed into national policy making. So we have to find a way to make it more of a priority in national policy making and have EU funding to support that. So the way we would see it is the child guarantee, as Raquel mentioned, looking at the services, so pillar 2 of the recommendation, particularly these 5 services that are in the proposal, but with regard to that, have in place a support framework to encourage member states to do innovative and new projects, programs, interventions in these areas, and to have an opportunity to monitor it. So it is indeed a way to realize what is in the recommendation. But yeah, we have to see where the future goes.
Okay, we have with us Marianne Paskevas.
Yes.
Good of you to join us. Thank you so much. Good to be
Sorry
here.
for the delay. But
No, you came for the best bit.
Yes.
So, Marianne's a policy officer at DG Employment, and I understand that you're great on money. You're the money person here. Excellent. We need the money here. Just in terms of the child guarantee and its positioning regarding the MFF, where do you see opportunity within the MFF to if not advance what we're calling child guarantee today, the objectives of the child guarantee?
So, perhaps, to say a few words, first of all, on the whole framework in which we are going to work in the MFF post-2020. Perhaps it was mentioned by Raquel, we will have the new ESF Plus that will be composed of 5 funds: the European Social Fund, the Fund for the European Aid to the Most Deprived, the Youth Employment Initiative, the Employment and Social Innovation Program, and the Health Program. In fact, it's a regrouping of 5 programs that are separate now into one, with the aim to work better through synergies and complementarities. The overall budget that is foreseen in the MFF is 101 billion euros. 100 billion euros will be for shared management. That means management between member states and the Commission of the budget available. And this will be for the ESF, the FEAD, and the YEI. And then the Direct Management Fund will represent the other 1 billion for the EASY program, the Employment and Social Innovation Program, and the Health Stand. Now, within this context, we have 11 specific objectives. And under these specific objectives, we have one specific objective that relates to tackling poverty and social exclusion, in particular for the most deprived and the children. So this could be one of the means to tackle the issue of child poverty. Now, another important issue related to young people is the fact that we have an earmarked amount of 10% of the ESF plus resources under the shared management, that means under the 100 billion, that could be used for youth, but only in the member states that they now benefit from the Youth Employment Initiative. That means that they have regions where the unemployment rate for young people is more than 25%. However, youth employment will continue to be also one of the priorities to be promoted within the overall context of the ESF Plus. And then synergies with the Erasmus Plus program also will be further considered, in particular because in the post-2020 MFF, the ESF Plus is not anymore part of the cohesion policy cluster in terms of policy framework, but of the values program together with the Erasmus Plus, the European Solidarity Corps, and the other programs run by DG Justice. So I think there is scope for investments. However, as I said, it's shared management, so member states should really be ready to go ahead with this type of investments. Moreover, we still have our 3 specific objectives on education and training, which are also relating to children, as well as all the priorities related to childcare and to access to services.
Great, thank you. Billy, you had a question? No?
Ačiū. I have one questions to you, Madam Paraskevas. Turiu vieną klausimą, Liučienė. Iš tikrųjų, tai buvo mūsų labai didelis pasiekimas, būtent mūsų S&D grupės ir mūsų socialistų ir demokratų visoje Europos Sąjungoje, kuomet... Yes? Yeah. Tai mūsų socialdemokratų buvo didelis pasiekimas, kuomet dabartiniai veikiančiai kol kas perspektyvoje finansiniai atsirado jaunimo garantija. Ir tai yra sveikintina, nes jaunimo problemų yra begalė daug. Bet ar jums netrodo, kad jeigu mes investuotumėm į vaikus, būtent į vaikus, mažindami jų skurdą, sudarydami vaikam lygias galimybės, tai kaip tik reikėtų mažiau investuoti tada į jaunimą, kad tai yra mūsų klaidos, kad mes per vėlai suvokėme, kad dėl didžiulio ES vaikų skurdo, po to mes daug daugiau turim išleisti pinigų jau jaunimui, nes tas jaunas žmogus ateina visiškai nepasirengęs gyvenimui. Ar netrodo, kad turim pradėti anksčiau ir turim turėti atskirą vaikų garantiją?
Sure.
In fact, we started to work on child poverty much before youth, when it comes to policy framework, because we started working on child poverty already in 2004, and we have developed a significant amount of instruments, policy instruments, including the recommendation on investing in children. Now, I have also to recall that the youth guarantee is not a funding instrument. The youth guarantee is just the policy framework. It's a council recommendation. And we have the investing in children recommendation that could be the policy framework that is similar to the youth guarantee. And there is a confusion on this level. The youth guarantee has absolutely no budget as such. It is supported at national level from national resources, and the EU funding comes only when it relates to the needs, where we use the Yale Employment Initiative to support the youth guarantee for the needs in the specific regions that have high youth unemployment rates, more than 25, and for the age group of 15 to 29. So again, there is a confusion of what is, let's say, the scope of the youth guarantee and what is the youth guarantee about. So for us, I say that having this investing in children recommendation is enough as a policy framework in order to push forward member states towards the direction of supporting children within the national context, with specific focus on those that are more disadvantaged. And that's why I mentioned this specific objective 11 that could be supported through the ESF+.
Thank you. We're in our last 5 minutes. I'm going to ask for a final comment from each of our speakers just in a moment. We also have with us Javier Lopez from the Employment Committee also. Good to see you here. Any final questions here? I can take one more question before we wrap up. No final question. Any remarks?
Yeah. It was not my idea to intervene, but I think it was a good discussion, and it's a discussion that it's present, and I think it's clear that we have maybe point of views different in this matter. But it's not a problem. Like, first of all, I would want to recognize that the Commission has been working a lot in this matter the last years. And like the recommendation as a political framework, it's clearly an achievement. Like this is something that in the Commission, both in your interventions, you underline, and we are aware about that. First of all, and not only this, like I was thinking, well, now the child poverty is in the semester. We are trying to check this. It's in the social pillar. Like we are reinforcing our political framework in this field. And this is something that we are advancing. We are having new steps, and it's perfect. The point or the reflection that we are doing in the Parliament, and especially our group, and she was the protagonist of this reflection, it was, well, maybe recognizing these steps, the child, well, a proposal of a new framework could reinforce using all these steps, reinforce not only in the political level this discussion, okay, also in terms of funding this matter, this field. What I try to explain, yeah, it's true, the youth guarantee, what it means, but the youth guarantee was clearly a step in a field that it was out of the discussion, out of the conversation, and it's true. It's true that it was, well, it is like a fiscal transfer mechanism. We should not shout about it, but it is like yeah, like how we are doing this, the regions that they are having problems, but it's a policy with funding that we are trying to do fiscal transfers here in a field that all the public opinion was scary. We have a clear consensus that this is something that we have to push. And also, it's a framework to have a change in our policy, active policy in terms of occupation, not only for youth. Like if you use these resources in a smart way, could be this tool. This is the point, and it's in the national conversation, like. To be honest, like the recommendation is out of the public debate, in the national public debates, the recommendation of the Commission. Yeah, but it's not easy. No, I know that, and the youth guarantee was a tool, like with a lot of mistakes, with a lot of problems of implementation, with the limits that I recognize and you underline that the youth guarantee has. It's clear, but it was in the national conversation, like the kind of funding with the limits that was you underline could be used like a transfer here for protect this. Like I don't know how, but our commitment is like reinforce. I don't know how. Like the political framework, because this is one of our priorities as a political group, and try to find policies with funding to fight to this field. And this is like, well, we can have the discussion, but we are coming in this fight.
Yes, quick response.
Yes. In fact, as I mentioned, we have started working on child poverty many years ago, and our, let's say, motto was universal support for all children, and targeted support, supplementary, for those in need, the sort of, now it's described as child guarantee. And this is what we should ideally aim to. But you mentioned it as well. We need the policy framework. We have it now with a pillar. I don't think that we need more policy instruments. I think we have the framework, so we need now to act in terms of aligning the funding to those policy initiatives. However, as I mentioned, we rely very much on the member states. And that's what shared management is about. And there again, we are trying to improve the situation in the next programming period by engaging in a meaningful way all stakeholders in the monitoring committees so that they can intervene in the selection of the projects that will be supported with the EU funds. For us, it's very important, this partnership principle. So anyway, the ESF Plus regulation proposal is at your hands now and at the hands of the Council. So please go ahead.
Thank you so much. We need to wrap up the session now. The second session, we're going to look more at the economic and social impact in society and democratic impact as well. Let's closing remark and maximum 30 seconds from each of our panelists. Let's start at the end and work our way back down here. So, Maria Letizia, Maria Letizia, 30 seconds on your takeaway from this panel.
First of all, thanks to everyone for the rich and really energetic and enthusiastic discussions. Clearly, there are points of view that are different, but I think it's also good because they can bring different elements also for us, for our work on how to approach it, and probably also it will be useful to take those points into account also when we will work on the feasibility study for the child guarantee in the next month. As Save the Children, we will continue to also engage on the work on the next MFF, on the ESF Plus. We have been working with our members at national level and with members of the Parliament, and will continue to do so. So very much looking forward to continue to work together.
Thank you. Rekha Nyogi, your child.
Okay, concluding observations, let's make use of the links between the EU and the national level, both in terms of policy guidance and in terms of funding. Let's look at the gaps at all these levels, and I would like to emphasize also the local level, which will be also impacted very much by the delivery of these projects and programs and actions. So let's look at where the gaps are both at local level and also at national level. Do countries have national strategies on reducing child poverty? Do they have an action plan, and are they funded? How are they funded? That's what we have to be looking at. And let's look at the EU level implementation and how they can support it. And just to echo, let's work together. Let's involve these different actors and also civil society.
Thank you. Daphne Arendt.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to use these 30 seconds wearing my research hat. I think I want to argue for continuous monitoring of the social situation. What we have seen from coming out of the crisis is that the vulnerable groups were hit hardest. And really, I think in line with the pillar of social rights, it's really important to make sure that all groups now benefit from this current growth situation. And I think what we really have to watch is this depth of poverty, so that for a small group of people, the actual problems of poverty don't intensify.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, also for the discussion. As convinced as I may be of the pertinence of the instruments that the Commission and the European Union has already put on the table and on the need to continue implementing those, I would like to reassure everybody that the Commission is in a listening mode, that we are a lawyer interinstitutional partner, that we have been entrusted with the implementation of this preparatory action, and that we are going to do it as good as we can with the means that we have, that all relevant stakeholders will have the possibility of expressing views during the development of this feasibility study, and that, as I said at the beginning, we are totally, the result of this is totally open-ended. We don't prejudge, neither in one direction nor in the other, and we will take it from there, whatever the results of this study are, but then on the basis of the objective evidence that will have been put forward by the results of this study.
And last word to Maria Ann Pascavas.
Oh, sorry, apologies first for being late. And
you made up for it.
Yes, I just want to say that, as I said earlier, now it's at your level to be proactive, and we'll see how it will go at the trilogues. And this time round, we had many success stories coming out from the European Parliament when it comes to the current ESF. We hope to have the same thing. And I would like to go back to what Reka said about having a very strong strategy at the member state level to combat poverty, in particular child poverty. And in this relation, the new ex-ante conditionalities, who are now becoming enabling conditions, will be a very important tool because they will be valid throughout the whole implementation of the programs. That means at whatever moment, the Commission would ask a member state where they stand with the implementation of their strategy on tackling child poverty, while in the current system, this is a one-off exercise at the beginning of the programming period. That means in 2014, 2015, member states claimed that everything was in place, but then there was absolutely no monitoring of how this strategy is evolving. Now we will have the opportunity to monitor this better.
Thank you. And if I can sum up for Brando Mercedes Nudo, Brando said we need a child guarantee because the current structure is fragmented. Mercedes said we need a flagship policy that we can sell, and Udo wants you all to fight for it and be strong. Thank you to our panelists, Brando Benefe, who's gone, Daphne Arend, Raquel Cortez Herrera, Marie-Anne Paraskevas, Maria Leticia Polizia, and Reka Tunyogi. Thank you all so much for your participation. Hang around, our second panel will be up in a few moments. Plenty of coffee and juice here, help yourselves. And we're going to have a formal coffee break, but we'll let you freshen up, and 5 minutes, we'll start again, literally 5 minutes. Thank you. Okay, can I ask the panel to take their seats, please? Okay, if we can take our seats, we'll make a start on the second session. Thank you. We got everybody. There we go. With an Italian president, you think the coffee would be stronger. If we're good to go, then we'll start. So the second session is on child guarantee as a long-term investment for upward social convergence. So we're going to talk more about the economics of the social impact of what the child guarantee could mean for Europe's citizens. Our panel, as we did before, we're going to start. We'll start at the far end and work our way back. A 60-second introduction: who you are, what you do, and your key pitch for today. And then we'll kick off with the discussion. So at the end here, we have Jónek Polét, Deputy Secretary General of PES. Very welcome, sir.
Yes, thank you very much first to the S&D Group for the invitation. So my name is Jónek Polét. I'm the Deputy Secretary General of the Party of European Socialists, who's the platform party of all European Social Democrats in Europe. I'm in charge of European policy, so among others, the child guarantee. So to be quick and in a nutshell, as a PES, we have been working very much on the youth guarantee some years ago, which we believe was a success in many member states and especially an achievement for our family, because we were the promoters of the youth guarantee and we've seen millions of young people benefiting from it. And then later on we have also developed a European youth plan, because with all the problems of the European youth, starting from unemployment but also poverty, we have developed that youth plan with 4 pillars. One was the youth guarantee, the other one is the child guarantee, then we have a culture check, and then we have Erasmus. And so the European child guarantee is one of our priority, and we want to make it a priority for the European election, and therefore I'm very glad to be here.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Next is Joanna Hoffman, Research Leader at RAND Europe UK.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, everyone, for the invitation and the pleasure of being here. I work as a research leader, leading work in social policy and employment. My background is actually in evaluation and research methods. That's my focus. I work for the organization which is called RAND Europe, which is a research institute. And what we do and specialize in is providing quality and objective research to inform policymaking. That's the pitch, and that's also the perspective on the child guarantee. We all agree, I think, that the situation is unacceptable, but I think the fun question is how we're going to address it, and that question remains open. If the child guarantee is the solution, I think we've heard pros and cons for that question. Now, where and how the EU can add most value is also the question that we want to see the evidence for. And if the child guarantee does go ahead, I think there consider both the design and the implementation considerations that need to be taken into account, because it is a much more complex instrument than the youth guarantee mentioned just before, and we're really looking forward to seeing how the study is going to address the complexities around that. The undeniable logic of the intervention in that the prevention is better than cure and that it's better to step in forward is clear. Now, whether that investment or that policy framework will actually lead towards upward social mobility and whether it will reduce disparities, I think that's the question that we are really interested to see and explore.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is S&D Group spokesperson on child guarantee, Vilja Blinkevičiūtė. I'm sure I mispronounced your name terribly.
It's okay, my name is Vilja. Thank you, Brian. I will speak in Lithuanian languages. Praeitą savaitę Vilniuje, labai gražioje vietoje katedros aikštėje, mane sustabdė būrelis vaikų. Jų amžius maždaug 6-7 metai. Ir jie man sako, pasakykit, kas yra demokratija. Jūs įsivaizduojate, tokio amžiaus vaikai jau rūpinasi, kaip jie gyvens, kokioj valstybėj, ar jie turės galimybę mokytis, ar jie turės galimybę gyventi saugiai, savo šeimoje, savo valstybėj, ar juos išgirs suaugusieji, ar nebus šalia jo smurto, išnaudojimo, ar jie galės didžiuotis savo valstybę ir mūsų bendra šeima Europos Sąjunga. Ir čia mes suaugusieji ir pirmiausia mes, politikai, esame už tai atsakingi, kad neskurstų 25 milijonai mūsų vaikų turtingiausioj bendryjoje. Įsivaizduojate, turtingiausioj bendryjoje šitiek vaikų neturi tinkamų gyvenimo sąlygų, neturi galimybės mokytis kokybiškai, neturi galimybės į sveikatos priežiūrą, į vaikų priežiūros institucijas. Ir tą mes turim suvokti. Ir mums neužtenka pasakyti, kad mes turime daug priėmę įvairių dokumentų ir teisės aktų. Bet atsimenat, aš minėjau, nieks nepasikeitė per 6 metus. Per 6 metus sumažinti vaikų skurdą tik 1%. Gėda. Gėda šitiem rūmam, gėda valstybėm narėm, gėda visom europinėm institucijom. Pinigų niekada nebus gana. Nei blogais laikais, nei gerais laikais. Tačiau yra prioritetai. Tai kodėl mūsų prioritetas nėra vaikai? Kodėl mes nuolat investuojam į betoną, bet ne į žmonės ir ne į vaikus? O gal vis dėlto todėl, kad vaikai nebalsuoja? Jie nėra mūsų rinkėjai, jie neatneš to balso. Todėl mes turim būti vieningi, kad keistumėm situaciją. Vaikų garantija mums yra būtina kaip niekad. Įsiklausykime. Už gero pusmečio, už 8 mėnesių rinkimai Europos parlamentą. Pasižiūrėkit, kokia yra situacija Europos valstybėse, koks pasitikėjimas Europos Sąjungos ateitimi. Todėl investuoti vaikus yra būtina. Ačiū.
Thank you. I'm pretty sure those kids will find a way to vote for you. So, thank you so much for that. Our next speaker is Pamari Close. He's the High Commissioner against Child Poverty from the government of Spain. Very welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a great honor to speak here. I was just saying that it's a great honor to be here speaking about child poverty. You know, I was recently appointed High Commissioner against Child Poverty, which is kind of a new agency created by the new socialist government in Spain. It was the first announcement that the president of the country made. You know, before he even appointed ministers, he announced that he was going to create this new body. It's somehow, you know, proof of commitment to fight a problem, a phenomenon that has been around in Spain, like showing very high figures. The idea is to put the living conditions of poor children on the spotlight, drive it into the political agenda, and coordinate efforts from different ministries. Beyond this commitment that we have, we want to push forward, this issue in the European agenda, because we are really convinced that child poverty is a major challenge faced by European countries, at the national level and at the broader level, because it threatens core values of the European Union, values that are related to human decency, that are related to life opportunities. And, we are facing challenges, political challenges from, movements, populist movements that somehow are basically putting into question the European project, because the European project has left people behind through the crisis. So we think that the European Union has an opportunity to regain legitimacy by addressing the needs and the demands of the most vulnerable. And I think we are going to put forward data here, not necessarily me, but other people are going to put forward figures that show that the most vulnerable right now in Europe are children and youth people.
Thank you so much for this excellent introduction. Our next speaker is Alfred Grixti, Foundation for Social Welfare Services in Malta. Sir.
Thank you. I am the Chief Executive of the Foundation. By training, I am an educator. Before I got into this job, I was a head of school, like my wife still is. Obviously, I'm here as a civil servant, but I'm at home. I'm in my family. I was active in the Malta Labour Party for many years, being the president of the youth movement and also the education secretary of the party. So literally, I am at home. And of course, child poverty, poverty in general, but child poverty in particular, is an issue we are very concerned with as a country. But I want to tell you a beautiful success story, which is how we have cut down poverty by half during the last 5 years in Malta because we had a Labour government. Thank you.
We're excited to hear that now. Thank you. Let's start off asking really about the social and economic benefits of what a child guarantee would be. During the course of this discussion, I want to try to tease out what this will mean for the election campaign as well, and what it means for democracy. We've had some of our speakers touch on these elements. So first of all, the social benefits of a child guarantee. Vilja, what do you think would be really the outstanding message that you can take to your electorate? The social benefits.
Pagrindinė žinia būtų, žinot kokia, taip žmogiškai ir paprastai, kad pagaliau mūsų žmonės, bet kurioje valstybėje, ar tai būtų mano Lietuva, ar tai būtų pietų valstybės, ar tai būtų šiaurės ar Skandinavijos valstybės, pagrindinė žinia būtų ta, kad mes Europos Sąjungoje nepaliekam ne vieno vaiko nepriteklių ir skurde, ir kad mums iš tikrųjų reikalinga tam tikra paramos sistema. Nes labai akivaizdu, kad socialinės paramos sistema padeda ištraukti žmonės iš skurdo. Ji padeda ištraukti ir juo labiau vaikus palaipsniui padeda ištraukti. Todėl mūsų žmonės pagaliau turėtų patikėti, kad jie nėra palikti vieni, nes jeigu mes nesuvoksime, kaip yra būtina investuoti į vaikus, mes tiesiog nepakeisim šito pasaulio. nusivylimas ES institucijom, nusivylimas politikais tikrai tik tai auks ir didės. Todėl mes, socialdemokratai, ir nekartą esam pabrėžę, kad investicijos į vaikus tai nėra išlaidos, tai nėra prarasti pinigai ir lėšos, tai yra investicijos į žmonės ir ES ateitį. Tai pagrindinė žinia, kad ES bendrija yra vieninga, viena stipri ir kad jinai sugeba pasirūpinti savo vaikais. Tai yra labai svarbu.
Thank you. Yannick, the change of rationale that's taking place here, moving away from austerity, a child guarantee impacts on that how?
Okay. Yes, I wanted to add also, after what Vilja said, that it's also important to know that now we've seen a little recovery at the EU level. But what we have to say also is that little recovery is not shared by everyone. So inequality is there still in Europe, and inequality has been increased because of the crisis. So it's important for us as socialists, social democrats, to tackle this inequality. And the child guarantee is one of the tools that we believe will be used or should be used to tackle inequality, and then it will be also a way to show that Europe cares about its people. Because what people want to know now after this crisis is that Europe has been described as a punitive Europe, a Europe that has been imposing austerity, and now Europe has to change its image and to show an image of protection. We have been succeeding that with the youth guarantee. It has been able to lift up young people out of unemployment through training, through education, through jobs, and now it's important to show that with the youth guarantee we will be able to do that.
And we talk about the child guarantee. Do you want to see the branding of the same message continue, that people can have something tangible to hold on to? Do you think that's important?
Yeah, I will be very concrete. I think that it has to be super tangible. Knowing about what I know best, which is Belgium and Brussels, I'm myself part of the Socialist Party here in Belgium and in Brussels, I can say that the youth guarantee has been a success in Brussels. We had high level of unemployment, more than 30%. Now it's more than 60 months, also through a socialist government here in Brussels, that youth unemployment is decreasing. And that has been lots of efforts, and it's structural reforms, positive ones, because very often it's described as negative, it is true, but that's a positive structural reforms where we have been modernizing the administration and also offering more possibilities to young people, also thanks to EU money, to this fresh EU money. And that's something now that we want to develop very concretely at the level of childhood. And so I can show, I come here, my party is doing a campaign on that. The campaign is about free education, but free education also is tackling issues that are part of the child guarantee. For example, now one of our Minister, Madame Simonis, is developing the distribution of free meals at lunchtime for school children, and that's copy from other countries where they are doing that, in Finland, and we know that students or young people or children, it's about children with a stomach that is full are better students. And so this is the way that we can show through concrete example, and I can give you more example than that, but also through the fund for the most deprived people, distributing fruit and vegetables. That's how we can show to people that Europe has really a direct influence in their life and is directly contributing to improving their life.
Let me ask you on this, though. That works for poor families, poor people. That doesn't. It's not a policy that inspires the wealthier class, the upper middle class as well. How do you convince them that there's a social benefit for them in this as well as part of the electorate?
Going back to what has been done in Belgium and what has been done in Belgium. It's the same for the question of youth in employment. It's touching upon people and young people that are unemployed first, this program. And the question of free education, we can see that it's touching, most families, whatever the solution or the proposal that they are doing. Could be free meals, but could be also free kindergarten. That's also something that has an impact for families, because at the end of the day, you're talking about per children, something like €200 a year, but for some family, this is a lot. It's about extra school support after school hours. It's also important whether you are rich or a poor family. If you organize that for children, you help them succeeding in their curricula. And that's also something that is not only for poor families, that also middle-class family would really much enjoy that. And this pilot project for free meals at school, for now it's about 4,000 young people, it's 78 schools, it's all over the French-speaking side of Belgium, and it's true that it's we have categories of schools, and that's the schools where you have a high level of number of children coming from poor family. But this also, it's cool to be extended to more schools. So not only for these schools where it's a pilot project, but for more children.
How you want to respond then, Vilja?
Yeah, I think the question is really interesting about how to convince people from other social classes that are not facing somehow the hardship of poverty and might never do it. So, you know, and I want to rely on a lot of evidence, of academic evidence. I'm a professor. I was a professor two months ago. So let me go back to the evidence that shows that, you know, unequal societies are societies that, you know, do not pay off for this, for middle classes and for higher classes. So, you know, if you are living in a very unequal society, you are likely to live in a polarized society, in a society where the levels of trust are low, where violence is higher, where there are a lot of social problems that need to be addressed, that need to be handled some way, you know, through, you know, social services, through security. You have a lot of health problems that somehow you are going to have to deal with, and this is costly. At the same time, you are not taking advantage of the human potential of your children to make strong contributions to your society, strong contributions through innovation, strong fiscal contribution through taxes that allow you to sustain a welfare state which to a large extent benefit like the middle classes and higher classes. So it's not a good deal to have child poverty that gets chronified into like youth poverty or poverty through the whole life cycle.
So, to summarize a little, if you invest in children from a young age, then that investment will benefit the whole of society because there's an economic benefit, a societal benefit in terms of health and security, and everybody wins.
Exactly. That's the...
Alfred, you speak about sometimes about the inequality, poverty, and the austerity agenda, and where that's brought us to today. Economically, why does inequality matter so much? Why does society gain so little from inequality?
If people are poor, they have less money to spend. With less money in any economy, that economy goes under. This is what happened in the Great Depression in 1929. It might sound Marxist, but that is the explanation which the US Senate's commission charged with trying to find out what led to the...
You think they're Marxists in the US Senate Commission?
They're not, exactly. But let me tell you what happened in Malta 5 years ago. We had a government which was right of center. It was adopting the establishment's received wisdom on economic policy, doing basically what the European establishment of the banking sector, of the financial sector, and over here, even in this building, were saying. And the crisis was a very good a very good excuse to say, listen, things aren't so good because there's the crisis. The new Labour government comes in, and the Commission is saying, you have to adopt the standard procedures to balance the budget and everything, otherwise we will put you in the excessive deficit procedure. Our Prime Minister, former MEP Joseph Muscat, his Deputy Prime Minister, former MEP Louis Grech, and his Finance Minister, former MEP Professor Edward Cicluna, said, no way. Give us a year and we're going to prove to you that we can do it another way. And it wasn't reckless spending, it wasn't reckless throwing money at problems. Very specific measures, macroeconomic decisions which were thought out. For example, introducing universal free childcare. Within 2 years, the introduction of universal free childcare meant that half of the mothers on benefits, and we had about 14,000, were only a population of 450,000, by the way, so we know that we might not be an example, but anyhow. Half of the mothers were back in employment. So that's 7,000 people who were on benefits and moved into employment. We borrowed a phrase which has been perhaps become a cliche, but the emphasis was on making work pay. Likewise, in the second year of the legislature, the government introduced in-work benefits to address the issue that was made in the previous panel about not having working poor. And that has helped, people to remain in employment. The previous government had ended in a shambles. It had a one-seat majority. It didn't manage to pass its last budget. So there was a political agreement that the election would be held at the end of the legislature, which was 2013, and that the new incoming Labour government would essentially present the same budget. It could have decided to renege on its word because then it had a majority of 9 seats in Malta's 65-seat parliament, but it didn't. And one of the things the Labour government had to therefore honour was a pre-electoral pledge to cut down income tax for anybody earning under 60,000 euros to 25%. And the Labour government did that. So, more money in people's pockets, people spending more. What you lose on the income tax side, you made up for on the consumption tax side. Over these 5 years, with sound economic management, we have moved from the austerity script to the prosperity script. Our Prime Minister likes calling it prosperity with a purpose. We have managed for the first time in 27 years to get all the social partners around the table to increase the minimum wage by 8 euros over 3 years. We have raised the minimum state pension every year since 2016, and we're going to raise it again next year. These are all the, the achievements which are economic achievements but are feeding in to our social policy. I come from that ministry.
Okay, Vilja.
Aš iš tikrųjų kiekvieną savaitgalį grįžus į Lietuvą keliauju ir labai daug susitinku su žmonėm. Labai daug susitikimų. Ir tiesą sakant, nesutikau ne vieno žmogaus, kuris pasakytų kategoriškai prieš ne, mes niekada nesutiksime, kad būtų investicijos į vaikus. Tikrai ne vieno nesutikau, kuris priešintųsi. Todėl mes politikai turim labai gerai tą įsidėmėti ir atkreipti dėmesį, kad jeigu mes nebus tų investicijų į tuos vaikus, ar jų sveikatą, ar jų švietimo galimybės, ar gyvenimą, ar į maistą ir taip toliau, taigi jie neišeis iš to užburto skurdo rato. Tas užburtas skurdo ratas augina dar, visą laiką jis didėja. Ir tai atneša labai daug neigiamų pasiekmių. Jūs, Brianai, klausėt, ar iš neligybės visuomenė gauna mažai naudos, kiek mažai naudos gauna? Be abejo. Pasižiūrėkite, aš, pažiūrėjau, esu įsitikinusi, galbūt aš klystu, tai yra žmogiška, kad ko gero ir Brexitas nebūtų įvykęs, jeigu iš tikrųjų būtų pakankamos investicijos ir Didžiojoje Britanijoje į tos žmonės, kurie neturi darbo, kurie gauna per mažas pajamas, kurie negali išlaikyti vaikų pakankamai, kur skurdas yra, kur didelis stygius lygių galimybių visiems. Manau, kad tai turėjo poveikį tikrai ir dėl tokio žmonių nusivylimo ir tokio balsavimo referendume. Kitas dalykas, pasižiūrėkime, jeigu nėra lygių galimybių ir ypatingai vaikam, tie vaikai nuo mažų dienų mato tą didžiulę atskirtį tarp tų, kurie turtingai gyvena, tų turtingų tėvų vaikų, kurie gali savo viską leisti. Ir tų tėvų vaikų, kurie gal turi vidutinės pajamas, mažesnės negu vidutinės pajamas, o netgi galbūt minimalios algos neuždirba. Tai irgi mūsų bendra problema, kurią turim spręsti. Nes atsiradęs prieš keletą metų naujas tam tikra prasme fenomenas. Dirbantys žmonės gyvena skurde ir jų vis daugiau. Ir iš to kyla, pavyzdžiui, žiūrėkim, į vidurio centrinės Europos valstybės didžiulę emigraciją. Žmonės išvažiuoja iš mano valstybės, jauni žmonės, su vaikais ir iš tikrųjų išvažiuoja į kitas valstybės, tiesiog nusivylę Europos Sąjungą ir jos teikiamom galimybėm. Antras dalykas - nusikalstamumas. Pasižiūrėkit, nusikalstamumą, kas gimdo, vėlgi bedarbystė, nepakankamos pajamos, skurdas, alkoholizmas, savižudybės ir daugelis kitų dalykų, į ką mes turim susikoncentruoti ir suvokti, kad mes kalbam, investuokim į vaikus, reiškia mes kalbam, keiskim pasaulį, padarykim jį geresnį, suprantamesnį ir iš tikrųjų, nežinau, gal per ilgai kalbu, bet dar vieną dalyką. Aš esu, žinokit, šiek tiek nusivylusi dėl socialinės Europos. Negi mes tik po 20 metų turėjom susirinkti Geteburge, po 20 metų, atkreipkite dėmesį, po 20 metų Geteburge susirinko šalių vadovai ir sako, nu dabar tai kovosim už socialinę Europą. Ok, pasitvirtinom socialinių teisių ramstį su 20 punktų, 11 iš jų vaikams skirtas ar ne, kad turim kovoti su skurdu. Kas toliau? Kas toliau? Ir aš galiu parvažiuoti ir pasakyti savo žmonėm, kaip jūsų kiekvienas, mesgi turim socialinių teisių ramstį su 20 punktų, bet jūs ten įgyvenkite tose valstybėse, o mes tai negalim vaikų garantijos turėti, kadangi yra labai daug įvairių fondų. Labai yra ESF+, bus, skurstantiem fondas, dar kokiu nors fondu, tai jūs pasimkite iš ten tos pinigus. Bet vaikai ir lieka kaip, žinot, likutinių principų. Likutinių, juos tiesiog pamirštam. O čia yra mūsų atsakomybė ir iš visų čia esančių. Va čia dabar kiekvienas pakelkit rankas, pakelkim. Kas prieš tas 10 milijardų eurų, kad būtų įvesta ir skirta vaikų garantija? Aš tai keliu pirmą ir jūs kelkit visi. Please raise your hands. Who are in favor for child guarantee? Aš galvoju, kad visi čia yra in favor. Gal išskyrus, kai kurie iš komisijos galbūt, bet sunku pasakyti.
Why do we not have a European socialist dominance if these arguments are so self-evident? What's gone wrong? Why is this not cutting through that austerity is bad, that child poverty is destroying the future of Europe's economy, not just families, but the future of Europe's economy? Why does this not cut through if it's so self-evident? Yeah, and then Joanna.
Atsispindės. Va, lygiai liko 8 mėnesiai, taip, iki rinkimų 19 metais į Europos parlamentą. Tai iš tikrųjų, aš tikiu visą širdim, kad tai turi atsispindėti, tai privalo atsispindėti, nes mums iš tikrųjų kairiosios minties, socialdemokratinės minties politikų visuose lygiuose reikia kaip galint daugiau. Ar tai būtų vietos rinkimai, ar tai būtų nacionaliniai parlamentai, ar tai būtų Europos parlamentas. Bet žinote, atsakant Brianai dar į jūsų klausimą, o turbūt mes visi čia esame kalti politikai, mes prarandame pasitikėjimą. Eidami į rinkimus, visi labai daug prižadame, teisingai, visi daug prižadame. O ar įgyvendiname? Ar nėra nusivylimo, kas dabar yra antiek pavojinga, nusivylimo tradiciniam politiniam partijom? Ir mes tikrai nežinom, kokios sudėties bus Europos parlamentas. Jis ko gero bus daug gaisesnis savo euroskeptikais, ar ne? Nacionalistais, ekstremistais. Ir sakyčiau, kad už tai atsakomybę turėsim prisimti mes visi, todėl kad pagailėjom tų 10 milijardų child guarantee.
Yeah. Joanna, the transmission of child poverty, for example, how deep does this go?
Well, thank you very much. I think it's a very difficult question. I think if we have an answer, then we wouldn't be in this room. I wanted to go back to the original question about the social benefits of the child guarantee that you asked in the beginning. And my answer to that question would be that we still don't know. We need to see the results of the study. I would be very careful to say that it will or that it won't have any impact or it won't or it will bring certain social benefits. I think I wanted to distinguish between the policy framework, the member state priorities in making decisions how the money is spent, and the actual instruments or the investments that we have been speaking about. And I think I might say something controversial, but not every investment is a good investment. What I'm saying is that you can have a range of different interventions in, for example, improving early childhood education and care. But only some of those interventions will actually bring positive results. Some of them will show no results whatsoever. Some of them will actually fail. And I think it's really important to bear in mind that this evidence that some interventions are really effective and others are less or no effective, it's really important in this conversation, and we didn't really spend that much time on that so far. And it is interesting to see that there are platforms that actually look into what kind of interventions are really evidence-based, and European Platform for Investing in Children that RAND is supporting the European Commission in that is precisely that. So we know what interventions in this area tend to work, and we know that some of those interventions don't produce that evidence so far.
What works?
There is a platform that can indicate and indicates what practices work and for whom and under what conditions, what the effects of those interventions are, and what are the precise parameters to design and how to implement such interventions that they actually bring results. And there have been interventions, I think, originating even in Ireland and in some other countries that have been proven effective unconditionally by looking at the really robust evidence results, and they have been also implemented in other countries. I think seeing more of use of this kind of evidence and those interventions is what we really need. Another example from the UK, RAND Europe is working together with the Education Endowment Foundation, which is one of the WorkWorks centres in the UK, which is precisely looking for the evidence for interventions at the level of primary and secondary education for children, particularly vulnerable children, trying to reduce the inequalities between children in the UK. And they are providing very robust studies that look at the effects of those different interventions, trying to see which are more or less effective. And it is interesting to see that not many of those interventions actually make a massive difference. So sometimes it's really a marginal effect that we are trying to establish, and we're also trying to understand why certain interventions work and why certain interventions don't work. So the money, whatever it is called, whether it's a European Social Fund or whether it's a European Social Fund Plus, or if it's another money, it's just a tool, it's an investment, but how we spend it, on what exactly projects and interventions they're going to
What would you like to see more money directed more towards? What kind of project?
Well, I think it's again, a very good question. I think at the moment, what we're looking to see is perhaps a little bit more balance into investing money in the interventions and programs that prove effective and bring results and actually improve educational outcomes, they improve the health outcomes for children. But at the same time, we need to allow some innovation and allow some interventions to be tested. But again, what I'm saying is that we really need to be careful with how we spend the money, because it is a limited resource. So how the money is spent is really need to be not only monitored, that we've heard in the previous panel now as well, but we really need to assess how this money is spent, because that money, we are accountable how the money is being spent. And it's interesting that in the previous panel we have heard discussions about we want to see more results. And, well, you know, the regional policy doesn't necessarily have the best reputation in providing that result. So it is interesting to see how the child guarantee...
Would you put more money into health or education for children?
I think I would like to see the results of the study, the feasibility study that is being commissioned. But
you can play the game. It's fine.
But what I wanted to add to that is that there is evidence from other countries, not necessarily EU countries, that actually multi-layered and diverse interventions that tackle different problems and also at different points in time.
Different policies will strengthen other policies if they're done correctly.
There is some evidence that there is out there.
Yeah, I basically concur with this idea that we need to assess at every step how we spend the money. You know, this is of utmost importance, you know. But we also need to keep in mind that no investment is the worst investment. So basically, not investing in children is a kind of luxury that we cannot afford at this point. We have a good deal of evidence showing in different contexts that, you know, certain practices, certain policies work.
Which ones?
And childcare, for instance, high-quality childcare works, produces children that you know, are benefiting from early stimulus in key moments of their life, and then end up being better students, you know, benefiting from like education through, you know, the whole process across.
What else works?
Certain minimum income schemes might work. You know, there is also evidence showing that.
What works that you could sell to an EPP voter?
Well, basically, these two policies, you know, are necessary, produce good results. Children benefit from them. When they grow up, they are less likely to abandon, to early dropout. They are more likely to be like productive workers, productive citizens, skilled. You know, we cannot afford having like children that are left behind from very early on and that are not going to be key assets in like the global society of knowledge that we are living in. So
your funds are limited. So do you have a universal scheme where everybody feels they benefit, or do you absolutely have to target it to the poorest and the most in need?
Well, it might depend on the context. You know, there are contexts in which you need to focus the resources into sections of the population that are not getting anything at this point. You know, we in Spain, you know, have a lack of transfers to like children in the most disadvantaged children, because they have been neglected. You know, there are a lot of tax exemptions that benefit the middle classes, but you know, the lowest income families are not benefiting from this tax.
What impacts I want to bring Phil in just a second. What impacts have you seen with child-focused policies on healthcare?
I'm not an expert, but for instance, there is a huge problem of obesity and overweight that needs to be addressed, you know, through policies that work. That we need to be very careful in selecting the policies that work and evaluate the policies when we implement it. And the best strategy is to conduct randomized trial, control trial experiments. Through the whole process. So I'm strongly in favor of the idea of evaluating policies and seeing the extent to which they work in contexts where they had not been evaluated before, you know, because we have evidence there. Evidence has been published about certain policies that work at several levels. But we need, when we implement policies, we need to be aware that they might not work in a different context. So it is important to...
So how do you get this through the MFF by saying, well, let's spend a bunch of money here, it may not work, but we'll try it anyway?
Because the likelihood that they might work is high, okay? They have been tested before, and we know that, that they work. Childcare is benefiting children, and especially low-income children, okay? We have a huge amount of evidence of that. From time to time, it doesn't work, okay? So we need to go step by step. And
Vilja, and then Jonak, I think I want to comment on this too.
Dėl atsakant jūsų klausimą, ką pasakytumėm IPP rinkėjams dėl vaiko garantijos, dėl vaikų skurdo.
I don't understand Lithuanian, but I'm guessing where this is going.
Now it's okay? Yeah? Okay. Tai, žinot, mes, mūsų socialdemokratų frakcija, Europos parlamente nuolat darom spaudimą dėl vaikų garantijos ir dėl investicijų į vaikus. Ir esam prieėmę ne vieną dokumentą čia Europos parlamente. Ir noriu pasakyti, kad netgi IPP grupės nariai, ar ne, dešinieji, pasidalino dėl paramos vaikų garantijai. Pavyzdžiui, mūsų MPL komitete, užimtumo ir socialinių reikalų komitete, nemaža dalis jų parėmė vaiko garantiją. Plenarinio posėdžio metu taip pat nemaža dalis jų parėmė vaiko garantiją. Reiškia, jie supranta, kad kartais nepriklausomai nuo politinių pažiūrų, mes turime rasti bendrą sutarimą. Vardan Europos, vardan vaikų, vardan Europos ateities. Kitas dalykas, aš pastebėjau čia dirbdama antrą kadenciją Europos parlamente, kad dažnai būna taip, šitą pasiūlė S&D frakcija, tai mes nepalaikysim. Betgi tai kvaila yra, jeigu tai tiesiogiai padeda mūsų žmonėm, taigi reikia tas ambicijas šiek tiek iš šoną padėti ir rasti bendrą sprendimą. Taigi, todėl aš manau, kad galima ir IPP rinkėjams normaliai viską išaiškinti. Bet kita dalis, sako jų, o kodėl jūs kišantės į valstybių narių atsakomybę? Čia valstybės narės viską nuspręs, jos su skurdu sukovos, jos išspręs visas problemas. Tai kodėl neįsprendė? Per šitiek metų jokio vaikų skurdo mes neįveikėm. Ir kai kalbam apie 1%, man yra gėda. Man kaip žmogui yra gėda, kaip politikė yra gėda ir kaip Europos parlamento nariai yra gėda. Ir kitas dalykas, ar švietimo ir sveikatą jūs sakot kam? Aš tai esu įsitikinus, kad turi užtekti viskam. Ir čia negalima priešpastatyti švietimo ir sveikatos. Čia ne priešpastatomi dalykai. Turi užtekti viskam, nes tai yra būtinybė.
Thank you. Yonik, and then I want to come back to Alfred here. Yonik, the role of gender in child poverty as well is something that often gets overlooked. We tend to see children as all children and that there's nothing differentiates them, and then we're talking about gender equality at an adult level. But we know very well that the income gap leads to a poverty gap and pension deficit as children grow into adulthood. So in terms of child poverty and gender, where do you want to see the focus of the action?
It's a complicated question.
I'm not going to give you an easy question.
But I want to go back once to what has been said first. One, I think that no investment is the worst thing that could happen. I think that to have these investments for the child guarantee and for children all over Europe must be a priority, and it must be a cross-party priority because it's investing in the future. And I think that that's a simple message that, across the political families, people can understand. Two, it's a multidimensional issue. It has been said in the first panel, I think that we have to repeat, and concerning your question, is not only by investing in better nutrition that you will improve the situation, or just by investing in the school system that you will improve, or just in the health. It's multidimensional, so all the different aspects at the different way must be developed by member states and by government, and they must themselves establish their priority. So I think that all these three are important in terms of the school systems. That's why the child guarantee and what Europe can do with the child guarantee and the 10 billion MFF, but also through other rules, like the golden rules, for example, can play a role. We know that in Belgium, Brussels, this is a city that is developing. We have a demographic boom. We have more and more people living in this city, and many of them are from foreign origin. Many of them are coming from families where they don't speak French at home. So from now, the compulsory age to go to school is 3 years old. But we know that it's already too late for some of them, because then they arrive at school, they don't speak French or they don't speak Dutch when they arrive at school, and so they have a gap compared to the other school students, and that directly make a difference, because then comes the problem for them. So it would be best, and it's admitted by all political families, that 2 years old would be better, but we don't have the means. We don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the means to do that, but we know that it should be the case. So it's a political objective from us, PS, maybe from others, but not that much as us, and so therefore the youth guarantee, I think, also has to play a role, and that's to show that Europe must play that and must play this role, for Brussels, but for other regions also, and that's also, I think, a way to convince people it's the model of society that you want. If you want to better integrate migrants, if you want to have a better model of society, also for the poorer people, it's important to show that it's also an economic argument. Then comparing to, regarding what you were asking regarding the gender impact, yes, I think that clearly it plays a role, because and I think that what has been said by the person representing the Spanish government is clear, and also from the Maltese ministry is clear. When you have these means that are developed, you can better help first their mother integrate the labor market, so also have better means and also better fulfill the needs of the families. But also you can see that I would say back for the children themselves, because something that is simple. Still, in some families, you put first the boys at school, okay, and then you keep the girls at home at the early age. That you can see in Brussels, and then it means that the young girls, they don't go at the kindergarten and they stay longer at home. And so I think that, and this is clearly will have an impact for them at school and later on. So I think that there is also a gender impact with the child.
Thank you. Alfred, this gender impact as well. We experience in Malta, and you spoke earlier about mothers going back to work and making work pay. Your advice for the group here today is focus where?
I think the primary focus has been to get the economic fundamentals right. There is no escaping that. And I think as socialists, we should reject the traditionalist liberal dogma that having a successful economy is not compatible with having a fair economy which works for everybody. I think we are showing that in Malta. So even though, and just last Monday, I don't want to brag, just last Monday I was with my minister, the other heads of the organizations that form part of our ministry. We were having our penultimate meeting with the Minister of Finance to put in our bids for next year's budget. And, you know, we have a budget surplus of about 1.5% of GDP. Government debt is now under 50% of GDP. But the finance minister still says, listen, we can't throw away money. So what works? We come back to that. And this is an economy, by the way, which for the last 3 years we've had economic growth average of 5% a year. Let me tell you what we are doing as an organization. We are responsible for a EU-funded program, the FEAD. In our, and we're having the annual meeting in 2 weeks' time in Malta. We have a very large logistical operation to distribute food boxes to the most needy. These are the people identified by our social benefits department, and they're telling us these are the poorest in society because they qualify for practically all the benefits. We're not only distributing the boxes, we're engaging with them. We are profiling them, we're seeing what their needs are, and we are not even tailoring services. We're saying, listen, our social mentors sit down with them and tell them, have you tried to access this service? Have you tried to access that service? So really, it's well thought out hand-holding and telling them, listen, don't feel defeated. Don't feel that there isn't any help. So bringing them closer to the services. Another thing which we are doing as an agency, and we're hoping to get EU funding for it eventually, is what a service, because as an agency we do everything from child protection to domestic violence to substance misuse and addictions. So we work with people who are chaotic. And we're working with multi-stressed families because, as you all know, people have a cocktail of problems. So you need to address them in a multidisciplinary way. We have developed, thanks to somebody who used to work in a very tough London borough, the borough of Lewisham, in child protection. And we've developed with her, or thanks to her, what we call the home-based therapy service. So instead of calling people in and they might be scared, oh, I've got to go and see the social worker, oh, I've got to go and see the psychologist. Our family therapists are going in, having very intensive 3-hour sessions in their homes when all the family is there, helping them work through their problems, helping them understand what they need to do so that we don't take the children away from them with a care order, and then you set them thinking. It's a longer process. It will take time. We ran it as a pilot project with about 20 families. We evaluated that pilot project to fine-tune what we're doing. We now have about 140 families, and next month as well, we are publishing an evaluation of how we went with these 120 families. So we're also moving in the area of having evidence-based services.
Okay, thank you. Vilja.
Dėl lyties dimensijos vaikų skurde, kadangi aš dar esu ir FAM komiteto pirmininkė, moterų teisų ir lyčių lygybės komiteto pirmininkė, tai iš tikrųjų pirmiausia noriu atkreipti dėmesį štai į ką. Turbūt mes visi žinome ir mes Europos parlamente savo rezoliucijose esam pažymėję, kad vis tik tai tas skurdas, matyt, daugiau gali įtakoti mergaitėm ir štai kodėl. Todėl, kad mes nepamirškim apie prekybą žmonėmis. Šita problema dar dėja mūsų Europos Sąjungoje egzistuoja. Ir egzistuoja jinai dėl ko? Labai dažnai dėl skurdo, dėl nepakankamų pajamų. Štai kodėl mes labai rimtai turim žiūrėti į tą problemą. Kita vertus, vėlgi, iš tikrųjų, kaip jūs sakot, moterų ir vyrų atlyginimų skirtumai yra didžiuliai Europos Sąjungoje, ar ne, apie 16%, yra valstybių, kur 25% ar netgi daugiau. Pensijų skirtumai dar didesni, apie 40%. Bet kaip reikėtų tą problemą spręsti ir ypatingai atsižvelgiant į tai, kad skurdas labai didelis yra vienišų, kada vienos mamos, dažniausiai dėja mamos augina vaikus. Ir ta prasme, ta problema yra iki šiol neįspręsta dėl vienišų motinų, kurios augina vaikus ir tie vaikai yra skurde, ar tai būtų mergaitė, ar tai būtų berniukas. Bet aš noriu atkreipti dėmesį vieną ir paprašyti visų paramos ir sutelkties. Iš tikrųjų, mes svarstom labai gerą direktyvą, Work-Life Balance, darbo ir šeimos suderinimo direktyvą. Parlamentas jau savo poziciją išreiškė, mes išėjom jau į trialogą. Ir tikslas yra šitos direktyvos, kad iš tikrųjų, ir tėčiai, ir mamos lygiateisiais pagrindais galėtų dalyvauti šeimos gyvenime, vaikų priežiūroje, kad būtų pakankamai vaikų priežiūros paslaugų, kad tos vaikų priežiūros paslaugos galėtų dirbti atitinkamą laiką, iki kol dėja tėvai dirba arba mamos dirba. Ir panašiai, tų problemų yra labai daug, bet kas atsitiko? Tai yra puikiai direktyva, tikrai gera, mes jos laukiam. Ir čia jau aš sveikinu komisiją. Nes įvertino mūsų Europos parlamento iniciatyvinį pranešimą, kad tai yra reikalinga. Tačiau valstybės narės jau yra tos, kur pasako, ne, mums nereikia diktuoti, mes pačios galim viską sustvarkyti. Tai kodėl nesustvarkom? Kodėl nėra jokių pokyčių? Kodėl tas nevyksta? Kodėl nėra bendro supratimo, kad ES valstybėse žmonės keliauja, vaikai keliauja, reikalinga visiems turėti bent jau minimalius standartus. O tų minimalių standartų nebuvimas iš tikrųjų žlugdo pasitikėjimą ES. Viskas.
Thank you. Joanna and then Pau, I want to take one or two questions. We have about 15 minutes left, okay? Yes. So Joanna, Pau, and then I'll take a question too.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I would agree with the predecessors that the gender gap is important and the gender pay gap is particularly painful. I think what I wanted to perhaps draw the attention to is that it would be really great to see the gender dimension in the feasibility study and then in the design and the implementation of the possible child guarantee, because very often a gender issue is an afterthought, it's an add-on, while we all know and the evidence shows that basically the different aspects and different factors contribute to that. So there are different role models that children see from the very beginning, from the start. There are different educational choices that children make, or the kind of the environment suggests that they should make, and there are stereotypes that exist. And I think including that dimension in the study and the possible considerations we have to tackle it will be really, really important. And DG Employment and the ESF in particular is the example that is really taking this into account.
Thank you. Pau, I also want to touch on nutrition before we finish today. So, Pau.
I make a very short point about this, which is I think gender-friendly policies are part of the response to the challenges of child poverty, because we know well from comparative evidence that states with a strong concern for gender equality and countries that through like the last 50 years have, introduced policies to make family life and labor commitments compatible, are also the states that have achieved the best results in terms of reducing child poverty. So basically, social democratic countries in Northern Europe that were very concerned about women's demands even in the 30s, 40s, 50s, have been able to push forward policies that benefited women and at the same time were benefiting children. So I am firmly convinced that social policies that effectively address child poverty are going to be necessarily feminist policies.
Thank you. Any quick questions? Yeah, go ahead. Just tell us who you are, where you're from, please. Yes, you can.
I just wanted to say that for us, the way that money should be spent when it comes to supporting children, what we intend is that children stay with their families. They are not taken away from their families. So we have to support families to keep their children. We should keep children in mainstream education with support, and we should not put them into institutional, and we should not create segregated paths of education. And most importantly, we should make, let's say, the public aware that investing in children is the future. We have been trying this for 10 years, and the reply that we get many times is, children do not bring votes. They do not vote, so why support these policies? And this is something that we have been hearing for a long, long time. And I think this perspective should be something of the past, and we should look forward. On another vein, I would also, we have not been involved in this child guarantee project from the side of the European Social Fund at all. And one of the elements that perhaps it would be worth looking at the same time as looking at the feasibility aspects, is where the gaps are, what is needed at the level of member states. Because the needs are different. There is not one size fits all. You cannot compare what happens in my country, Greece, where we spend the money and the money goes to the pockets of some intermediaries and nothing arrives at the end, nor, with what happens, for example, in Belgium, is the country where I live and I know what is going on. So I think that's very important. And last but not least, I have personally, I'm not talking now as a Commission official, I have been involved in this area for a long time. And I kept telling my hierarchy, why we put so much focus on investing on third level education. We need to invest on the fundamentals, because it's there where the basis is. We need to invest in fundamental education, early childcare, early intervention, not for the universities. And I have to say, last point, we were appalled when the MFF post-2020 was published, and we saw that the budget of Erasmus Plus was tripled, it was, 5-6 times more than what we got. While, investing in people and in children is also of equal importance. But of course, there is this tendency to support only initiatives that are popular. And perhaps ESF is not that popular. And again, I come back to the fact that it doesn't bring votes. Our investments are invisible. They don't bring votes. So member states, when they have to divide the money, they will invest in there where the votes will come. So that's my...
Excellent intervention as well. Thank you. You had a question also?
Yeah, hello.
Tell us who you are.
Sorry, my name is Paul and I work with the ECR. We were talking about earlier, or we've been talking about how the need for the child guarantee is obvious post the recession, and it seems to be the failure, a lot of the cases, because of the failure to prioritise this on the case of within Parliament. But as Senora Herrera said in the first session, in the case of the youth guarantee, for example, in Spain, it was kind of the failure of the government to act on it and to use those funds that were available. I was wondering, particularly to you, Mr. Maria Klosik, sorry, I lost your name. Sorry, how you think, why you think that might have been the case in the past governments or European governments in general, their reluctance to take advantage of these funds, and why the conditions might be different for the child guarantee?
I can really not give a good answer. You know, I think there might have been a lack of interest by the government in taking full advantage of what the funds allow them to do, you know, because or a lack of expertise in the way the funds could be used. So basically, it has been a problem of that the funds were. There was not a strong political will to make use of them. You know, basically.
But do you think a part of that problem is a lack of salesmanship on the part of either politicians or administrators explaining just how it gets done? There's no lack of uptake of funds for any banking process. The money's there, it gets used immediately. There's no lack of fund uptake for energy process because the amounts involved are huge and it's driven by industry. Why does this not get channeled in the same direction with the same energy for social policy, for youth guarantee, and perhaps for the child guarantee?
You know, you need political will to channel resources. You know, when you don't have the political will, you might not be, because maybe you know, young people are not your direct voters. I'm not saying this is the case, but it's a plausible hypothesis. And you know, then you might not be particularly interested in challenging these resources. In terms of political commitment to combat child poverty, I'm the proof somehow that you know, the new government is strongly committed to do so. You know, this is a new agency.
But you see this gap, as it's just been pointed out as well, and as Madame Herrera said earlier. Do you see capacity for your government to sell these policies and to leverage every cent that's involved in the programs?
I see the commitment, to the will to do so, and the human resources devoted to do so. You know, we are an agency that are well equipped from a, you know, skill basis to, you know, work along these lines. You know, beyond that, I cannot tell you how successful we will be in challenging these resources because, you know, it demands more than skills and political will sometimes, because you might find, like, you know, other kind of obstacles. For instance, we have a strong obstacle in terms of being a minority government that needs support of other political parties to pass laws that might allow you to spend the money. But you know, you have two of the three components.
Let's touch on this before we're closing. In the context of nutrition, is somewhat independent here. I would see nutrition as a win-win for everybody, in the sense, and I worked as a healthcare journalist before I came to Brussels for 5 years. Nutrition touches every life, and obviously, but you're looking at an obesity explosion, a diabetes plague, and increasing heart disease across a generation which has never been seen before. And all of that comes with huge cost, huge budget cost to every European government. It would seem prudent, to me at least, that all political parties are able to engage in the reduction of healthcare costs by investment in nutrition, starting from the earliest possible age. Just a quick comment from each of our panelists in this. Joanna's gone. Joanna. There you are. Short comments each.
Well, I think that everybody agrees on that, that nutrition is important after what you said, but I mean, for me, I see it also as a way to tackle the question of poverty, because you have really to understand that some people do not have food in the lunchbox or access to food when they go to school. Huh? It's also a reality. It's a question of obesity, of health, but it's just also a simple question of to have the stomach full. On what has been the question before, I think that it's not only a question of money, because what we are asking or what we support as a PS is this 10 billion pledge, but it means also a question of a matter of work at the national level. And that's also a key to success. So I agree that it's not one size fits all. It will depend from country to country, but it demands also a lot of political willingness from each of the member states and, of course, with socialist governments.
Okay. Joanna, invest to save with nutrition. You going to buy it?
I would like to see evidence for it. There was a program, a scheme of fruit and vegetables in school by the Commission. I'm not familiar with the results of the evaluation, but would love to see that.
Okay, Paul, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, I would say right now we know, we have evidence that obese kids are more likely to be poor kids. So we need to be aware of this social gradient of obesity and to deal with it when we develop programs that address this issue. After that, we need to assess the effects. And I completely share this view of being aware that things might work well and might not work that well. And we need to be flexible to adapt to outcomes of our evaluation.
Google takes the view that you should throw stuff at the wall and see what sticks, get it done and then make it better. Do you think you want to wait for every evaluation, or you want to throw some stuff at this policy?
You need always to throw some stuff and then evaluate and go ahead.
Alfred.
Nutrition, yes. We hold the record of being, I think, the most obese country in Europe.
Yeah, you do.
We don't exercise enough. I plead guilty. But again, going back to what I said before, the FAID initiative, we made sure that the food we put in those boxes was nutritious food, and we also stuck in recipes and told people, listen, this is how you should cook it so that it's nutritious. We've introduced breakfast clubs in all state schools so that children whose parents have to go to work early are brought to school and given a healthy breakfast. The Ministry for Education and the Ministry for Health are joining up forces to make sure that kids exercise more. The idea is catch them young, and maybe we'll have to wait a few years for an evaluation.
Thank you. We're closing up.
Bet iš pradžių aš dar noriu dėl maisto problemos pasakyti. Tai, žinot, aš čia matau dvi problemas, kada mes kalbam apie vaikų skurdą. Pirma, dėja, bet yra turbūt tūkstančiai vaikų ir netgi gal ir milijonus priskaičiuotumėm, kur ne tik, kad negali kalbėti apie sveiką maistą, bet apskritai ne kasdien gauna ar daržovę, ar vaisių, ar apskritai valgyti. Nes tikrai yra visokių šeimų ir aš ko gero tikrai žinau, kad ne vienas esat matęs ir susidūręs tokiais dalykais. Tai viena problemos pusė, mes turime užtikrinti tiem vaikam maitinimą. Ir žinoma, kita pusė yra, kad mes turime užtikrinti sveiką maitinimą ir maisto kultūrą apskritai naudojimą. Aš atsimenu, kai aš dar buvau Lietuvoje socialinės apsaugos ir darbo ministrė, mes priėmėm tokį įstatymą, kad visi pradinukai, pradinių klasių moksleiviai, pas mus Lietuvoje 1-4 klasių moksleiviai, maitinami yra pietumis nemokamai. o dalis iš jų ir pusryčius mokyklai gauna, bet atkreipkite dėmesį nemokamai. Ir žinot, koks buvo tikslas, ir atsimenu, kaip aš nacionaliniam parlamente įrodinėjau, todėl, kad mes turime formuoti apskritai ir maisto kultūrą, vaikas turi gauti tą karštą maistą ir panašiai. Ir kitas labai svarbus dalykas, įsivaizduojate, maži vaikai labai skiria, aha, šitas yra iš neturtingos šeimos, iš biednos šeimos, matai, jam valgyt duoda, reiškia vargšas, šitas turtingas, aš nusipirksiu, ką noriu. Tai didžiulė atskirtis, nepasitikėjimas, patyčios mokykloje iš to kyla. Todėl mes turim pasiekti tai, kad visi vaikai būtų lygus, bent jau formuoti tą požiūrį į lygybę visų, ypatingai vaikų, nuo pat mažens ir sakykime, kad tas pavyzdys, kad visi pradinukai kartu valgo, maitinasi ir sveikai maitinasi, tai jau yra pasiekimas. And now I need to close, yes? Okay. Keletą minčių tik pasakysiu. Pirmiausia, aš dėkoju visiems, kurie dalyvavo šiandien mūsų S&D grupės parengtam seminare, kur mes dar kartą visi kalbėtojai dviejose panelinėse diskusijose tikrai patvirtino, kad puikiai supranta problemą, kad mes turim dirbti kartu tam, kad vaikų skurdo neliktų. Ar tai misija įmanoma? Taip, tai yra įmanoma misija. Bet tik tai tada, kada visi kartu veiks. Visos politinės jėgos, ne vien tik socialdemokratai, bet ir krikščionys demokratai, ir liberalai, ir žalieji, visi supras politikai, kad be investicijų į vaikus nėra ateities. Ir dar, jeigu politikai negirdės balso nevyriausybinių organizacijų, vaikus atstovaujančių organizacijų, valstybių narių balso, tikrai nieko nepakeisim. Aš labai dėkoju komisijai ir komisijos atstovė už paskutinį pasisakymą. Iš tikrųjų, aš tikiu, kad didžioji dalis komisijos darbuotojų supranta, kad investicijos į vaikus yra būtinos. Mes darbiški komisijos pirmininką Junkerį paspausim ir gal jau žiūrėkit ir 10 milijardų atsiras. Dėkoju visiems vertėjams, visiems darbuotojams, kurie parengė šitą mūsų diskusiją. Brianai, ačiū tau. Buvo puikiai diskusija. Ačiū ir laukiam rezultato. Darbo dar nepadarim. Džiaugtis per anksti. Ačiū. Ačiū visiems. Ačiū.
Thank you so much, Maria. Thank you to all our panelists. Can we please leave the room?
Okay.
There's another group coming in. Thank you so much for your attendance.
Thank you, Brian.
Pleasure.
Pleasure meeting you.
Did I give you a card?
No, I didn't.
No, so
So I'll give you my card.
for you.
Thank you.